Chapter 567. Above a large lake near the outer gate of Eastern District 210-5380 in the box court world. All of a sudden, 4 figures, 2 men and 2 women, appeared 10,000 meters above the ground. Since they could not let Newton faint from crying in the toilet, the 4 figures were falling vertically due to gravity. Wu-Ming opened his eyes, but when he noticed his current state, he did not do anything. Instead, he was thinking deeply about what had happened. On the platform inside the root of origin, Wu-Ming opened the letter after creating a spiritual base. Immediately after that, Wu-Ming felt that the letter was pulling him as if it was taking him somewhere. But it was clear that the letter had failed. Even if it was a backup body, the body was made from the flesh of the root of origin dragon. How could a mere letter move Wu-Ming? Moreover, this was inside the root of origin. The half-invincible Wu-Ming could not be pulled away no matter how one thought about it. However, Wu-Ming had a hunch. This letter is definitely a signal sent by my real body. With that in mind, Wu-Ming decided to take a look at the world that the letter wanted to pull him into. With the automatic management of the root of origin, there was no need to worry about the root of origin being lost. However, it also meant that Wu-Ming's backup body could not go. Therefore, Wu-Ming emptied his mind and allowed the letter to pull his spirit over. That was right. Wu-Ming was now a spiritual body. No, to be precise, Wu-Ming was now a spirit. Wu-Ming's current state could also be called a heroic spirit. The heroic spirit's clone was called a servant. Wu-Ming, on the other hand, had directly materialized his spiritual body. Instead of weakening the clone, he had retained the full strength of his real body. The only difference from his real body was that Wu-Ming could not transform into the root of origin dragon's gigantic dragon form. Moreover, everything about Wu-Ming was a magical projection without a physical body. Whether it was his tools or relics, they were all illusory. However, those tools and relics could not be used. Therefore, at this moment, Wu-Ming's spiritual body could be called a heroic spirit state. Then Wu-Ming's heroic spirit state opened his eyes and appeared 10,000 meters high in the sky of this world. In short, he had arrived in an unknown world. Although Wu-Ming had sorted it out in his mind, Wu-Ming's doubts grew. It was his doubts about this unknown world, or rather, his desire to explore the unknown world had become more burdensome. After all, Wu-Ming was a traveler. After thinking about it for a while, Wu-Ming came back to his senses and began to look around. Then he discovered his current situation. Am I in the sky? Although Wu-Ming in the sky, Wu-Ming, 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 Wu-Ming. Then, Wu-Ming looked at the remaining man and 2 women who were in free fall like him. The 4 of them were in a state of 4 different forms of free fall. Each of them occupied a corner. First, Wu-Ming looked at the person on his left. He had short, light blonde hair and purple eyes. He was wearing a pair of headphones that looked more like headbands than listening to music. He was dressed in a dark blue high school uniform and looked like a delinquent. He had an unruly and surprised smile on his face. Wu-Ming understood his smile. It was the excitement and joy of encountering an extraordinary phenomenon after losing all passion for ordinary phenomena. He looks like a problem child, Wu-Ming commented in his mind. Then Wu-Ming looked at the person on his right. It was a young lady with the temperament of a rich lady. Her beautiful face was frowning slightly. She had black waist-length hair and flat bangs on her forehead. The ends of her long hair on both sides of her forehead were tied into braids. 2 red bows were tied on both sides of her head. She wore a pure white uniform with a yellow tie and a conservative dark blue traditional dress that reached her calves. This was also a problem child, and it was a problem child in the feudal and conservative style of a rich lady, Wu-Ming commented. Finally, Wu-Ming looked at the expressionless girl who was holding a cat with 3 different colors of fur. Beautiful short brown hair. She was not beautiful, but she had a delicate face like a doll. There was a silver hairpin on the side of her short hair, which added a bit of cuteness to the girl. He was wearing a white sleeveless top and orange shorts, and a sleeveless white trench coat with blue edges. Around his neck was a carving that looked like a pendant. On his feet, he was wearing knee-high socks and calf-high boots. This unique combination gave people a feeling that they were dazzling, but there must be a demonic sense of evil under that face. Simply put, this was also a problem child. Wu-Ming was quite troubled. Thinking about it carefully, although Wu Ming was not interested in causing trouble, Wu Ming himself was also half a problem child. I feel like I'm in trouble, Wu Ming said lightly. Then, to relax, Wu Ming looked at the scenery in the distance. As a ghost that was doing a vertical descent from a height of 10,000 meters, Wu Ming thought that the scenery here was quite good. Just kidding. In the distance, Wu Ming saw areas covered by transparent semicircles. Countless areas that looked like greenhouse bases were closely adjacent to each other, and then extended into the distance that he could not see the end of. Those transparent semicircles that looked like greenhouse sheds were some barriers. This was Wu Ming's judgment. Around the transparent sheds were a lush forest that covered a large area. The area that Wu Ming was in looked like a lush forest. All in all, this was a large area, at least much larger than Earth. However, Wu Ming was quite interested in this vast area that he could not see the end of. Even with Wu Ming's eyesight, he could not see the end, so one could imagine how big this world was. And the vastness of the world meant that there were many unknown pleasures. The reason why Wu Ming was a traveler was because of his desire to explore the unknown. However, this was not without its drawbacks. This meant that it would be very troublesome for Wu Ming to find his main body. However, seeing that he was getting closer to the ground, Wu Ming, who was about to fall, did not think about other things for the time being. Let's land safely first. As he said that, Wu Ming activated his telekinesis. In an instant, including Wu Ming, the 4 people that fell from the sky seemed to be supported by something invisible as they floated steadily to the ground. Yo, little brother, this is your method, right? It's quite interesting, isn't it? Let me thank you first. First, the delinquent young man greeted Wu Ming and thanked him after landing. It's just a small trick using my telekinesis. It's not worth mentioning. Wu Ming shook his head. Then, Wu Ming looked at the giant lake beside him. Moreover, even without me, you would only fall into this lake. At least your lives would not be in danger. But in the end, you still helped us, didn't you? The blond young man smiled and waved his hand indifferently. I agree with this delinquent young man. Even if the original result was good, but I, Jiu Fei Niao, was saved by you. The necessary gratitude is necessary. The lady named Jiu Fei Niao also thanked Wu Ming. Thank you. On the other hand, the girl who was hugging the cat was quite nimble. She didn't say anything and directly thanked Wu Ming. The 3 of them were people with strong personalities, so Wu Ming had no choice but to accept their gratitude. Then the 4 of them exchanged names. By the way, could it be that you guys also received that strange letter? The young man named 16 Knights asked the others with a smile. Ah, so 16th Eventide has also received that letter? Miss Jiao Fei Niao replied with her arms crossed. Same. The delicate girl named Haruhai Byayoshi nodded. Me too. Wu Ming was the same. However, Wu Ming did not feel that the letter he received was the same as the 3 problem children. He wanted to ask why. One word, intuition, for all ***. However, Wu Ming did not want to be an anomaly. He wanted to be like the 3 of them. Let's not talk about the letter for now. Little brother, you're not human, right? Suddenly, 16 Knights looked at Wu Ming with an arrogant smile. Chapter 568. This made Wu Ming frown. Could it be that this seemingly delinquent boy was actually hostile towards non-humans? Don't worry, it's just that your powerful aura is making my blood boil. Normal humans can't possibly make me think this way. Wu Ming then realized that 16 Knights, Jiu Yuki, and Haruhibuyao were standing a little far away from him. Sorry, I feel a little uncomfortable being close to you. This was what Jiu Yuki said. I'm fine, it's just that Sanmao Cat feels uncomfortable. This was what Haruhibuyao said. Including 16 Knights, the 3 of them were slightly further away from Wu Ming because of the pressure from Wu Ming's powerful aura. Wu Ming had used his spiritual form twice. The first time was when he was pulled over by Wu Ming's semi-fixed barrier, and the second time was when Wu Ming took the initiative to use it. Although the physical body was different, Wu Ming's spiritual form was the same. Because Attila was the giant god, and because Wu Ming was unfamiliar with spiritual power, and had never fought with Gidia before, Wu Ming didn't put too much pressure on Attila. This time, Wu Ming's current state could be said to be the first time Wu Ming used his spiritual form on his own. In addition, he had just fought with Gidia, so the pressure didn't lose its effect because Wu Ming was a spiritual form. I'm sorry. Wu Ming smiled bitterly and retracted his pressure. I just fought with a powerful enemy, so I didn't adjust. I'm really sorry. Facing Wu Ming's apology, the two problem children accepted it as a matter of course. I, Jiuyuki, forgive you. This time we're even. Jiuyuki waved her hand. Ditto. Haruhebu Yao was still hugging the cat with a look of indifference. Only 16 knights didn't care about Wu Ming's apology for unintentionally releasing his pressure. Instead, he was very interested in Wu Ming's pressure and the enemy that Wu Ming thought was powerful. Why are you interested? Wu Ming looked at 16 knights with interest. Of course, little brother. Do you want to spar with me? Wu Ming was silent. It wasn't because someone he just met wanted to spar with him, although it was more or less. Wu Ming was slightly surprised. Falling from a height of 10,000 meters, he didn't seem to be frightened at all. He wasn't interested in Wu Ming's telekinesis either. He didn't panic even after coming to an unknown world. More importantly, these three boys and girls, they weren't affected by Wu Ming's. That was comparable to the world, or even a higher level of pressure. Wu Ming looked like an ordinary human, but the three boys and girls only subconsciously distanced themselves from Wu Ming. They didn't react to Wu Ming's pressure. Only distanced themselves from Wu Ming by a little. It was obvious that these three seemingly ordinary humans were not ordinary at all, and were not simple at all. Now, if someone suddenly told Wu Ming that they were the chosen ones, which was quite ridiculous, Wu Ming would believe it. Then Wu Ming did something that would be considered a bully in the eyes of those who knew Wu Ming's abilities. Alright, let's spar. Let me see what's so special about you guys. Wu Ming thought. After hearing Wu Ming's words, 16 knights smiled, and it was the purest kind of smile. Seeing this smile, Wu Ming was sure that this seemingly ordinary human Wu Ming wasn't as ordinary as he looked on the surface. Then, just as 16 knights was about to tell Wu Ming what was a normal brawl exclusive to male high school students, a rabbit suddenly jumped out. Stop. Please don't fight. Black Rabbit will be very distressed. A blue-haired girl wearing a rabbit costume as a bunny girl suddenly jumped out from the bushes. She looked at Silent and 16 knights who were about to start fighting with each other with a troubled expression. Cosplay. It's cosplay, right? Oh, this is really pleasing to the eye. The three problem children each expressed their opinions. However, Wu Ming didn't think that this girl who seemed to be cosplaying was cosplaying, because he felt the power of God from this rabbit girl. After all, Wu Ming was half a god slayer. Although he didn't bring the body of a god slayer with him, thanks to his time as a half-god slayer, Wu Ming's understanding of gods and things related to gods was still quite sensitive. Black Rabbit is not a cosplay. Black Rabbit is the noble Moon Rabbit, a nobleman. The girl named Black Rabbit shouted in exasperation, trying to prove her innocence. Moon Rabbit? Wu Ming thought thoughtfully. Wu Ming knew this word. Back in the world of the god slayers, Wu Ming read a lot of books about mythology to deal with the various gods, although Wu Ming later found it troublesome and asked Collis to save it in the database. Ahem, but Wu Ming still knew a lot of myths and legends, and the story of Moon Rabbit happened to be a myth that Wu Ming knew. According to legend, Moon Rabbit jumped into the fire and sacrificed herself in order to save an old man. Then this action moved Sakura, and she was taken in by Sakura. In short, Moon Rabbit was a rabbit that lived by the principle of sacrifice and dedication. Black Rabbit should be the descendant of Moon Rabbit or something like that. But what was a nobleman? Wu Ming really didn't know about this. At this time, Haruai Hibaku appeared behind Black Rabbit without anyone noticing. I'll catch it. Then Haruai Hibaku grabbed one of Black Rabbit's rabbit ears, and at the same time he also added a voice for himself. Wah! What are you doing? Why are you grabbing Black Rabbit's rabbit ears? Black Rabbit looked as if her lifeline was grabbed. She nervously grabbed Haruai Hibaku's hand that was grabbing Black Rabbit's rabbit ears with tears in her eyes. Because I want to know if you're cosplaying or not. Haruai Hibaku showed a smug expression, and then the hand that was grabbing Black Rabbit's ear pulled up slightly. Wah, please stop. Black Rabbit was about to, no, it was already about to cry. Oh, could it be that it's a real rabbit ear? Let me try too. As she said that, Milady grabbed Black Rabbit's other rabbit ear. Wah! Black Rabbit let out a mournful cry that resounded through the sky, and a group of birds flew out of the forest in fright. Don't tell me you want to pull that moon rabbit's ear too. Wu Ming looked at Reverse 16 Knights, who was eager to try. Reverse 16 Knights smiled. I want to, but that rabbit's ear is occupied by Haruai Hibaku and Milady. Moreover, Reverse 16 Knights looked at Wu Ming with a fighting spirit. I'm more interested in fighting with you. Stop. Fighting is prohibited. Black Rabbit, who had finally broken free from Haruai Hibaku's and Jiu Yuasuk's torment, suddenly came in front of Wu Ming and Reverse 16 Knights. Then, Black Rabbit took out a folding fan from nowhere and hit Reverse 16 Knights and Wu Ming on the head. You bunch of problematic adults. Neither Reverse 16 Knights nor Wu Ming dodged, and both of them were hit by Black Rabbit's folding fan. Thank you for the compliment. Reverse 16 Knights smiled at Black Rabbit. I'm not complimenting you. Reverse 16 Knights, who treated problematic child as a compliment, made Black Rabbit feel helpless. However, Wu Ming felt that Reverse 16 Knights was deliberately teasing Black Rabbit. Speaking of which, I didn't do anything, so why did you hit me? Wu Ming subconsciously rubbed the spot on his head that Black Rabbit hit. Black Rabbit did not use any force, but Wu Ming was slightly unhappy that he was dragged into this. I just agreed to Reverse 16 Knights' request. That's all. Wu Ming looked at Black Rabbit with a smile. Wu Ming would never admit that his smile at this moment was extremely mischievous. Wu Ming's words of "that's all" made Black Rabbit feel quite helpless. Do you want to fight until there are casualties before you're happy? However, Reverse 16 Knights laughed. What are you talking about, little brother? I'm the one who picked a fight, and you're the one who fought back. Wu Ming, on the other hand, smiled with interest. In other words, this fight must be fought, and it must be fought at this moment. Stop. Mr. Villo only agreed. I haven't made a move yet. Black Rabbit protested. However, to Reverse 16 Knights, Wu Ming's answer was the beginning of the fight. In other words, it was the so-called fight back. Looking at Reverse 16 Knights who did not listen at all, Black Rabbit's shoulders drooped. Then let's postpone this fight. Can we listen to Black Rabbit explain the box court world to everyone? This sentence made Jiu Yuasuka and Haruhito Yayoi, who were ready to ambush Black Rabbit, Reverse 16 Knights whose eyes were already burning with desire, and Wu Ming who was paying attention to Black Rabbit all look at Black Rabbit. Seeing that the problematic child was so obedient, Black Rabbit smiled. Then let's listen to Black Rabbit's explanation. Chapter 569. Then after the Black Rabbit walked around in circles, it began to explain this world called Box Court World. First of all, welcome to the Box World. Black Rabbit opened her hands and closed one of her eyes playfully. With a smile on her face, she spoke a very enthusiastic opening line to Wu Ming and the other three. It feels so perfunctory. Haruhito Hikari whispered to Jiu Yuasuk. Indeed. Jiu Yuasuk nodded respectfully. Hey. Black Rabbit instantly collapsed again. Just kidding. 2. Because Black Rabbit was teased, its ears drooped, and it looked like it couldn't take it anymore. Seeing that it was about time, 16 Knights waved his hand. Let's cut to the chase. What exactly is this box court world? 16 Knights asked rudely. Really, Mr. 16 Knights is so rude. Black Rabbit complained. However, Wu Ming's next words made Black Rabbit's tail tighten. Let's not talk about whether it's rude or not. The person who was eavesdropping over there was you. As he said that, Wu Ming pointed to a bush. You. What are you talking about, Mr. Villo? Black Rabbit was just passing by for some reason. Ahahaha. Wu Ming's unwavering gaze caused Black Rabbit to stop its awkward performance. Yes, I'm sorry, Black Rabbit shouldn't hide and eavesdrop, but that's all reasonable. However, Wu Ming directly interrupted Black Rabbit's words. Okay, I didn't want to blame you. If I guessed correctly, you should have a lot to do with us coming to this world. Wu Ming's words made Black Rabbit's body tremble, and its ears drooped again. Oh, little brother, you're starting to suspect this rabbit too? 16 Knights looked at Wu Ming with a typical delinquent smile on his face. There's no other way. Wu Ming spread his hands. When we were still some distance away from the ground, I released my mental power to explore the surroundings. Not to mention the area blocked by the barrier. Within the area of thousands of square meters, there are no other humanoid creatures other than the four of us and the black rabbit. Over 1,000 square meters. Ju Yuan Flying Bird was shocked by Wu Ming's spiritual perception. Not only Kyugu Asaka, but Black Rabbit and Haruai Biao were also shocked. Even Reverse 16 Knights, who had always been calm in the face of such a situation, was shaken. It could be seen from his increasingly excited face. I have a question. Can a Villo's psychic power spread that far? Haruai Abe held the cat in one hand and raised his other hand. He looked quite cute. If I spread out in all directions with me as the center, the range can be much larger. If I only explore in one direction. Wu Ming closed his eyes and opened them a few seconds later to look at the local black rabbit. There's a spectacular waterfall in the easternmost area. There's also a snake there. If there's a chance, let's go check it out together. Could that be the world's end? Black Rabbit looked at Wu Ming in shock. The world's end. 3 good heavens. This made the 3 problem children excited. Although this is the closest place to the world's end, it's still tens of thousands of meters away. It seems that Mr. Villo has an extremely powerful gift. Then, Black Rabbit looked at Reverse 16 Knights, and the other 2 problem children who were eager to go and quickly waved his hand. You must not go there. The water god is there. The snake that Mr. Villo saw is Lord Water God. Now that you mention it, I want to go even more. Reverse 16 Knights' words almost made Black Rabbit cry again. Water god? Sounds like a god. If there's a chance, let's go check it out. Ju Yuan Flying Bird did not want to go immediately. However, in Black Rabbit's opinion, it was dangerous for problem children to have such thoughts. Snake. I don't hate snakes. If possible, I would like to become friends with Lord Snake, Haruai Toshi said to the cat in his arms. However, this sentence sounded gentle, but in Black Rabbit's opinion, it was also quite dangerous. Problem children were all troublemakers. Speaking of which, that snake stared at me just now. Looks like I'll have to teach it a lesson. Wu Ming was purely having fun. Please take back your troublemaking thoughts. Black Rabbit felt that she could not do it anymore. Speaking of which, are you actually a wizard? Reverse 16 Knights looked at Wu Ming. Not really. Compared to a wizard, I prefer a warrior who uses his fists to his flesh, Wu Ming joked. Then, is the telekinesis from before also a type of spirit power? Ju Yuan Flying Bird asked. That's right. As long as the spirit power is strong enough, it is not a problem to affect the real world. Wu Ming nodded. Then Villo, can you use your telekinesis to make Black Rabbit stand upside down? Finally, Haruai Toshi asked the most dangerous question for Black Rabbit. Black Rabbit was stunned. Of course. As soon as Wu Ming finished speaking, Black Rabbit felt her body floating. No, she really floated. Then Black Rabbit, who was 1 meter above the ground, was suddenly flipped over. Ah! Black Rabbit let out a sound that a girl should have, and tightly held on to her miniskirt. I'll grab it. Haruai Toshi and Ju Yuan Flying Bird took the opportunity to grab the rabbit's naturally drooping ears. Ah! Please. Please stop. What's with this miniskirt? Does it defy gravity? Reverse 16 Knights looked at the miniskirt in confusion. Even though she was flipped upside down, she still did not fall due to gravity. I'm afraid it's a special piece of clothing, Wu Ming said to Reverse 16 Knights. So that's how it is. This box is really amazing. 16 Knights clenched her fist and punched her other hand. Looking at Wu Ming and 16th Knights who seemed to be studying something important, Black Rabbit was completely enraged. You bunch of problematic children. A minute later, the 4 people, including Wu Ming, sat on a white cloth that Black Rabbit took out from a card. Black Rabbit, whose hair suddenly turned pink, knelt elegantly in front of the 4 people. According to Black Rabbit, her hair would only change color when her emotions changed drastically, or when she was ready for battle. Needless to say, The reason why her hair changed color this time was because of Wu Ming and the others. Then Black Rabbit, who gradually calmed down, regained her blue hair, and sighed helplessly. Really, how did Black Rabbit meet such a group of problematic adults? It must be said that Black Rabbit was indeed a descendant of the Moon Rabbit clan. But in terms of dedication and sacrifice, Wu Ming felt that she was already qualified. Being teased by the people she just met, constantly grabbing her rabbit ears, and being turned upside down. It could be said that she almost lost her virginity. Anyone would be furious. Although Black Rabbit was also angry, she only pretended to be angry, and then lectured Wu Ming and the others. Wu Ming simply knew that he could not make too much of a fuss, so he went along with Black Rabbit's idea. But as for the remaining 3 problematic children, Black Rabbit's hair can change color. Sigh, how interesting. Ju Yu and Fei looked at Black Rabbit's hair covetously. It is indeed interesting. Haruai Hiroyuki nodded and stroked his cat, as if he was considering whether his cat could change color. However, the cat did not give him face and shook its cat head in a very human-like manner. Stop, Black Rabbit. Don't play with Black Rabbit's hair anymore, Black Rabbit said helplessly. Black Rabbit's ears too. Seeing that the two wanted to say something, Black Rabbit quickly added, Tisk X2, stop it, Black Rabbit, I heard you. Then Black Rabbit's expression became teary again. Really, a group of problematic children. Okay, it's about time to get to the main topic. Wu Ming interrupted the farce. At this time, Black Rabbit realized that she was going to explain the matter of Hakata to the 4 people, but she was interrupted by Wu Ming. In the end, it led to this series of events. In the end, if you think about it carefully, it's all the little brother's fault. 16 knights looked at Wu Ming, who did not mind the trouble, and looked at Wu Ming with a mischievous smile. A lady will not cover for a criminal. Jiu Fei Niao flipped her hair and said calmly. However, her curved lips betrayed her. Yeah. Haruai Hiroyuki nodded fatally. Then Black Rabbit looked like she was about to cry again. It's all Mr. Villo's fault. Chapter 570. Wu Ming's apology calmed Black Rabbit down a little, although 16 knights, Jiuyuki, and Haruai Hikari were still unhappy. Then, let's not talk about our problem for now. Please explain this world first. Then, according to Wu Ming's request, Black Rabbit began its original purpose, which was to explain the Suida world to the 3. Actually, you've all discovered that you have magical abilities that are different from ordinary people. It's because of this ability that you've been invited to this courtyard world to participate in the gift game. After Black Rabbit finished speaking, Wu Ming vaguely observed 16 knights and the other 2. 16 knights still looked like a bad boy without any change, but Jiuyuki and Haruai Hikari's expressions changed slightly. This meant that these 2 girls did indeed have abilities that were different from ordinary people. Actually, thinking about it, Wu Ming excluded himself for now. Thinking about it carefully, whether it was 16 knights who wanted to have a fight with Wu Ming, or Jiuyuki and Haruai Hikari who looked weak, but were actually not that simple. The 3 of them were not as simple as they looked. Just from the fact that they did not panic in an unfamiliar environment, or even in a foreign world, one could see that the 3 of them were not ordinary people. It was because they were not ordinary people that 16 knights and the others could come to this world. Or rather, they had the qualifications to be invited to this world. I'm afraid the so-called invitation is that letter. Wu Ming pondered. Those abilities are basically abilities bestowed by the Azura gods, Buddhas, fairies, demons, and stars. We call these abilities gifts, Black Rabbit continued. Wu Ming thought about this sentence for a while. Wu Ming was not from this world, but according to this statement, most of Wu Ming's abilities were indeed given by Azura gods, demons, fairies, stars, and other existences. And the gift game is a competition that uses gifts as a wager to compete. This world is a stage prepared for this. Black Rabbit said with a serious smile. Looks like she is very good at giving speeches. She has been a host many times. Wu Ming guessed. Since it's a competition, then anything can be gambled, right? Wu Ming interrupted Black Rabbit. Good question. Black Rabbit smiled. There are many types of bets. Not only can you bet on gifts, but you can also bet on gold coins, land, reputation, rights, and even the person itself. The more bets you put in, the more you will get. Isn't this a casino? Wu-ming complained in his heart. But I don't think it's as simple as you said, Black Rabbit. After all, this was the survival principle of a world. How could it be as simple as a casino? Wouldn't that be a mess? Yes, if you want to participate in the competition, you have to get permission from the organizer, hoster, or reach the standards set by the organizer, hoster, before you can participate. Then the Black Rabbit closed one eye, tilted its head, and extended a finger, looking playfully at Wu-ming and the other three. As for the rewards, you have to fulfill the conditions set by the organizer, hoster, before you can get them. Then the organizer, hoster, should be in existence that anyone can be as long as they can prepare the rewards. Wu-ming said. Yes, Mr. Villo is right. It seems that Mr. Villo has a very thorough understanding of box court. Black Rabbit smiled at Wu-ming. So that's how it is. To put it simply, this world is decided by the game, right? Wu-ming suddenly asked. According to Black Rabbit's explanation and Wu-ming's conclusion, it reminded Wu-ming of the other world where he gave the throne of the only god to the weakest god. The god of games, Tetu. Wu-ming guessed that 1,000 years later in that world, it would be similar to box court now. After all, it was the god of games. Wu-ming didn't even need to think to know what Tetu would do to that world. Well, in short, there won't be any war. It couldn't be said that Wu-ming understood Tetu. As a god born from Rick's wish, it was destined that he wouldn't be as violent as the other gods. Moreover, Rick's wish was to stop the war. Wu-ming believed that Tetu, born from Rick's faith, would definitely abide by this wish. Or rather, he would subconsciously abide by it. If that's the case, the bestowal tournament can also be considered a game. The lowest difficulty of the bestowal tournament is the simplest form of lottery. Then Black Rabbit's face instantly darkened. Like a demon, he looked at Wu-ming and the other three sneakily. As for the highest difficulty, you'll have to face the Azura gods and Buddhas in a battle of life and death. Really? 16 knights suddenly jumped up. Yes, of course it's true, Black Rabbit said proudly. Black Rabbit didn't notice 16 knights' expression, and thought that he was frightened. Haha, that's great. The box court world is truly a beautiful place. 16 knights bumped his fists together with a look of extreme excitement. Black Rabbit was shocked. This situation doesn't seem right? Shouldn't it be, because it's too dangerous? Black Rabbit is asking for a safe and effective way to participate in the bestowal tournament while still being able to survive. Sounds like a good idea. You can only enjoy fun when there's danger. I gave up my wealth to come here. Wouldn't it be too boring if I stayed here peacefully? Zhu Yuan Flying Bird also had a not bad expression on his face. Even Miss Fei Niao was like this? Black Rabbit was close to being stunned. I just want to make friends. Haruhibe Masuaki's words gave Black Rabbit a glimmer of hope. But since the two of them are excited, then I'll be the same. All right, the Black Rabbit was completely dumbfounded. What kind of logic was this? But fortunately, Wu-ming didn't give Black Rabbit a fatal blow. I don't mind. Although I was invited, I'm only here to look for something. Wu-ming's words made Black Rabbit react. Speaking of which, Black Rabbit only sent out 3 letters. Why were 4 people summoned? 16 knights, and the others didn't know this question. Only Wu-ming knew about it. I think your 3 letters should be inviting the 3 of them. As for my letter, it's not that simple. But this gave Black Rabbit a fright. Could it be that there's a community that invited Mr. Villo? But that shouldn't be. No, if that's really the case, then it's terrible. Could it be that Black Rabbit inadvertently stole people from other communities? Community? This gave Wu-ming a good piece of information. Wu-ming guessed that it might be the name of an organization in this world, just like the Magic Association in the Godslayer world. But thanks to this information, Wu-ming could more or less guess the reason why Black Rabbit summoned 16 knights and the others back and treated Wu-ming and the others so kindly. Looking at Black Rabbit's worried look, it was obvious that Black Rabbit's community wasn't strong, or rather super weak, so it was afraid of disputes with other communities. And Black Rabbit summoned talents from another world to supplement the community's strength. From Black Rabbit's hesitation after guessing that it was Wu-Ming who was summoned by other communities, it could be seen that this kind of thing wasn't common. It could be guessed that there shouldn't be any other communities that needed to invite people from another world to supplement their strength. In addition, Wu-Ming said that the invitation of 16 knights and the others was related to Black Rabbit, and Black Rabbit's mood was slightly low. It could be said that Wu-Ming's guess was very close. Combining all the guesses, it was that Black Rabbit's community might be very weak, or it might be the weakest, so it urgently needed to supplement its strength, which was why it used such an extreme method. After all, if the invited people didn't want to join Black Rabbit's community, then Black Rabbit's invitation would be wasted. Wu-Ming didn't think it was easy to invite people from another world. Perhaps it was easy for those powerful communities, but Wu-Ming felt that it might be extremely difficult for Black Rabbit's community. Don't worry, I wasn't invited by other communities. I came for other reasons. Wu-Ming's words calmed Black Rabbit, whose hair had changed color due to fear and worry. Chapter 571. Really? Black Rabbit breathed a sigh of relief and relaxed. Fortunately, Wu-Ming was not invited by other communities, and Black Rabbit's worries were not unreasonable. After all, no matter where it was, as long as it was related to benefits, it would easily lead to disputes, battles, and even deaths. And with the level of mental power Wu-Ming displayed before, even in this world he was a talent that was highly sought after. Wu-Ming could imagine that if Wu-Ming was really summoned by other communities, then after that community knew that Black Rabbit did something similar to poaching, they would definitely go against Black Rabbit's community. After all, when coming to an unfamiliar place, people often tended to be close to the first friendly force they met. If Wu-Ming joined Black Rabbit's community because of this, then the community that invited Wu-Ming to this world would definitely not give up. And because Black Rabbit's community was in the wrong, coupled with the fact that they were weak, even if they did not die, they would lose a layer of skin. But all of this was based on the fact that Wu-Ming was invited by other communities. Then, Wu-Ming looked at Black Rabbit, who was patting her full chest with a relaxed expression. Then, combined with the community you mentioned, it's almost time to start talking about the problem of your community, Black Rabbit. Wu-Ming's words made Black Rabbit, who had just relaxed her delicate body, tremble, and she was stunned on the spot. Black Rabbit knows. Black Rabbit said with a gloomy expression. If you want to participate in the gift competition in this world, you must join a force called the community. Could it be a force like the mafia? This sentence was inexplicably appropriate when it came from the seemingly delinquent 16 knights. No, it's not that kind of evil organization. Just like Black Rabbit's community, it's like a home. Black Rabbit looked at 16 knights angrily. I'm just kidding, 16 knights responded with a smile, but there was a trace of seriousness in his eyes. At this moment, Black Rabbit, who was running around for home, no longer had the right to be teased. I think everyone here should roughly understand. Please continue, Black Rabbit. Jio Asaka looked at Wu-Ming, 16 Knights Reverse, and Haruai Hiroyuki. Seeing that no one had any objections, he signaled Black Rabbit to continue. After all, what he was going to talk about next was probably the community of Black Rabbits. Introducing his own home was a very important thing. Then the Black Rabbit lowered its head slightly, as if it was thinking about its language. Wu-Ming guessed that Black Rabbit was considering how to convince them to join the Black Rabbit community. Then Wu-Ming spoke. Please raise your head, Black Rabbit. Wu-Ming not only made the Black Rabbit raise its head, but it also attracted the attention of the 3 problem children. Let me say this first. I won't refuse to join someone just because their community is weak. Wu-Ming's words stunned Black Rabbit. By the way, I'm the same. 16 Knights responded to Wu-Ming's words with a wicked smile. Mr. 16 Knights. Black Rabbit looked at 16 Knights Reverse emotionally. I gave up a lot of money to come here. If the community I'm going to join is too good, I won't want to join. Jio Asaka flicked her hair and said elegantly, Miss Asaka. Black Rabbit looked at Jio Asaka even more emotionally. I just want to make friends. Then Haruai Hiroyuki looked at Wu-Ming, 16 Knights Reverse, and Jio Asaka. But since they all said so, then I'll join them. Miss Asuka. Although this reason made people feel helpless, Black Rabbit was still very grateful. Wu-Ming looked at the three problem children in surprise. Through these words, Wu-Ming could see that the three problem children had also guessed the purpose of Black Rabbit inviting people from another world. But Wu-Ming was not surprised. Anyone who was slightly smarter, after seeing Wu-Ming beat around the bush and Black Rabbit's various actions, could more or less guess Black Rabbit's purpose. Therefore, Wu-Ming was not surprised that the three of them guessed Black Rabbit's purpose. But Wu-Ming was quite concerned about what they said. But thinking about it carefully, it was not strange for problem children to say such things. Everyone. Thank you so much. Black Rabbit's eyes were filled with tears as he bowed 90 degrees to Wu-Ming and the other three. Then, the three problem children did not let down their title of problem children. Wu-Ming even suspected that this was the three problem children's tactic of loosening the reins only to grasp them better. It's too early to thank me. I just won't directly refuse to join. I didn't say that I would join. Eh? Black Rabbit looked at 16 Knights reverse blankly. I just don't want to join a community that's too good. If it's a community that's slightly worse, maybe I'll join. Black Rabbit turned his head mechanically and looked at Gyo Asuka. Even Miss Asuka. Since the two of them are like this, then I'll be like them and tease Black Rabbit. Haruai Hiroyuki said the cruelest words without any expression. So everyone is teasing Black Rabbit. Black Rabbit lowered his head. So it's like this. Wu-Ming said lightly and shook his head helplessly. His conjecture was actually correct. Then, Black Rabbit took out a paper fan from nowhere and hit the problem children's heads hard. You adult problem children, ah. That's why, girl, you're still too young. How can you believe the words of problem children? Wu-Ming smiled helplessly. Then, I say, I'm not teasing you. Black Rabbit. Why did you hit my head? Wu-Ming helplessly rubbed his head where Black Rabbit hit him. Because this topic was brought up by Mr. Villo. Black Rabbit can see that Mr. Villo is also an adult problem child. Black Rabbit puffed up his cheeks and said angrily, Good job. ×2 Gyo Asuka and Haruai Hiroyuki gave Wu-Ming a good job gesture. This made Wu-Ming feel his head hurt. Although it didn't hurt, when Wu-Ming thought about how he was classified as a problem child by Black Rabbit, he inexplicably felt a trace of sadness. All right, little brother, you should know that we're in this together. 16 Knights put his arm around Wu-Ming's shoulder and said generously, Should I have left immediately after coming to this world? These three guys won't die from the fall anyway. Wu-Ming was speechless. Wu-Ming even started to suspect that these three guys didn't guess the situation of Black Rabbit's community, through Wu-Ming's beating around the bush and Black Rabbit's behavior, but purely to tease Black Rabbit. But of course, that was a joke. Then Black Rabbit, can you tell us why you invited us? Gyo Asuka finished speaking and straightened his body, looking quite serious. Not only Gyo Asuka, but Haruai Hiroyuki and 16 Knights also became serious. So you guessed it already. Wu-Ming chuckled lightly, and also began to get serious. Speaking of which, Wu-Ming felt that he had been very serious all along. You don't have to hide it, Black Rabbit. Compared to being tricked into a weak community, I think they're more willing to take the initiative to join a weak community. The three problem children nodded along with Wu-Ming's words. Wu-Ming's words became the last straw that broke the camel's back. Black Rabbit began to talk. Actually, Black Rabbit's community is now a community that doesn't even have a name or a flag, which is the so-called no name. Chapter 572. Black Rabbit told everyone about her community's situation in one breath. Originally, a few years ago, Black Rabbit's community's flag flew all over the East District, but because the existence of the Demon King forced them to participate in the gift competition, they lost their companions, name and flag. Only Black Rabbit and Ren Russell were left to participate in the gift competition. The remaining 120 members were all children under the age of 10, who couldn't participate in the gift competition. And in this box court world where participating in the gift competition was the standard of survival, the current state of No Name could be said to be facing a life and death crisis. No Name, who was at the bottom, was in urgent need of new companions to save them, So Black Rabbit used the items that she had painstakingly obtained to summon people from the other world. They were 16 knights Reversal, Jiuyuao, and Haruai Hikari. Although there was one more now, but because Wuming didn't belong to anyone, this was a good thing for No Name, as current state. While she was at it, Black Rabbit also explained to Wuming and the others about the division of different districts and classes. The box court world was divided into 4 districts: East, South, West, and North. There were 2 super huge barriers called the boundary walls that separated them. And the mountain that Wuming saw in the sky before was the intersection of the 2 boundary walls. And at this moment, Wuming and the others in No Name were at the outermost position of the East District of this world. And there was also a saying about the outer gate. In this world, other than the 4 districts of East, South, West, and North, there were also 7 classes. Each class was represented by a corresponding number. The smaller the number, the stronger the strength. And these 7 classes were also divided. 1, 2, 3, and 4 digits were the upper class, 5 digits were the middle class, and 6 and 7 digits were the lower class. Just like where No Name was currently at, it was 210-5380 outer gate, the lower class of 7 digits. And according to Black Rabbit, her community No Name was undoubtedly the weakest existence in this 7-digit outer gate. Question: are names and flags important? Jiuyuao raised her hand and asked. After all, in the eyes of normal people, losing a companion was a serious matter, but weren't names and flags randomly made up? Very important. It's quite important. Black Rabbit said excitedly. In this world, the importance of the community's name and flag is probably equivalent to the importance of a country's name and flag in other worlds, Wuming analyzed. Mr. Villo is right. That is a very important existence. Black Rabbit's expression sank again. Question: what is a demon king? Haruhai Biayue raised his small hand. Reverse 16 Knights was also quite interested in this term. It sounded like the existence of a big boss. That's an existence that uses the natural disasters of the box court world. No one wants to encounter it. Then Black Rabbit explained the existence of the Demon King to everyone in detail. There was a special authority in the box court world called the Organizer Authority. The person who had the Organizer Authority could forcefully hold the game of bestowment. The participants could not choose whether they wanted to participate or not. They could directly ignore their wishes and force them to participate. And the existence that had the Organizer Authority was known as the Demon King. In the game of bestowment organized by the organizer, people could choose to participate in the game of bestowment or not. The Demon King, no matter what you choose, forced you to participate in the game of bestowment organized by the Demon King. Once the Demon King initiated the game of bestowment, no one could refuse. They had to participate. If they won, everyone would be happy. Moreover, they could choose to let the defeated Demon King join their community to strengthen their strength. But often, the truth was not that simple. Demon Kings were basically powerful existences. The top target of the Demon Kings was also a community that the Demon King judged could not defeat in the gift competition. After all, the Demon Kings could not challenge a community that was much stronger than them. That would be no different from sending themselves to their deaths. But this also meant that if a community was targeted by the Demon King, there was basically no chance of survival. That was how Black Rabbit's community, No Name, was dragged into the game of bestowment by the Demon King. Then, it was defeated overnight and its companion, name, and flag were taken away. Then, why not disband the current community and form a new one with a name and flag? Reverse 16 Knights asked. After all, according to Black Rabbit's introduction, the game of bestowment did not say that this could not be done. 16 Knights' meaning was very simple. Only by forming a new community with a name and flag could Black Rabbit's No Name survive. I'm afraid it's not that simple. Wuming retorted. Establishing a new community, other than having a name and flag, was exactly the same as No Name, in other aspects. No companions, no talents, and the people in this area knew that this new community was the former No Name. Therefore, it was basically impossible for them to join this new community formed after No Name was disbanded. And according to Wuming's guess, the tool to summon people from another world was not something that could be seen casually. Otherwise, Black Rabbit would not have only used it now. Instead, it used it after No Name was invaded by the Demon King. All in all, even if a new community is established, No Name is still No Name. It's just a No Name, with a layer of skin over it. Its essence will not change. Mr. Villo is right. However, even without those factors, Black Rabbit would not do that. Black Rabbit raised its head and looked at Wu Ming and the others with a firm gaze. Black Rabbit wants to protect everyone's community. Protect this home that will still exist even if it is invaded by the Demon King and abandoned. Protect this home that everyone can see when they return. Black Rabbit said emotionally. Unknowingly, tears once again hung from the corners of its eyes. Black Rabbit does indeed want Mr. Villo, Mr. 16 Knights, Miss Flying Bird, and Miss Yao to join my community. However, because Black Rabbit knows that its community is a weak one, it was actually prepared to hide it from you at the beginning and wait until you join Black Rabbit's community. Black Rabbit said in a low voice. However, I didn't expect Mr. Villo's intelligence to be so high. You actually guessed the information of Black Rabbit's community through indirect reasoning. Mr. 16 Knights, Miss Flying Bird, and Miss Yao also saw some clues through Mr. Villo's method. The four of you are quite outstanding talents. Black Rabbit smiled at the four of them. Even if everyone does not choose to join Black Rabbit's community, Black Rabbit will not be angry and will not have any complaints. After all, Black Rabbit's community is the weakest existence among the 7 digits. Moreover, the invitation letter only brought people from another world. It does not have the ability to force them to join the community. Then, Black Rabbit lowered its head and did not speak again. At the same time, Wu Ming and the others did not make a sound. Just like that, the 5 of them fell into silence. Then Black Rabbit will leave first. Black Rabbit, who lowered its head, stood up without lifting its head, turned around and walked away. Thinking about it, after knowing that the community that was about to join was the weakest, No Name, that did not even have a name and flag, who would want to join? Probably no normal person would choose to join such a community. A few teardrops fell from Black Rabbit's cheeks. As Black Rabbit walked, the teardrops fell to the ground. However, Wu Ming and the others who saw this scene smiled helplessly. The 4 of them looked at each other. Jiu Yufei and Haruai Hiroyuki chose to give the right to speak to Wu Ming and 16 Knights, who were the boys with the loudest voices. Then 16 Knights gave Wu Ming a look that said, "You were the first to discover Black Rabbit's purpose," and signaled to give the right to speak. Wu Ming smiled helplessly, then responded to 16 Knights and the others with a look that said, "Leave it to me." Then, Wu Ming spoke to the Black Rabbit who was walking away. "Please wait a moment, Black Rabbit, there is something I need to explain." After hearing Wu Ming's voice, Black Rabbit was stunned at first, then raised its hand to wipe its tears and turned around. "Excuse me, Villo-san, is there anything else you want to say?" Black Rabbit smiled happily at Wu Ming and the others. Although Wu Ming guessed that Black Rabbit might have experience as a host, Wu Ming had to admit that the smile at this moment was really ugly. People who showed this fake and forced smile to make themselves happy were not happy at all. "First stop this smile, Black Rabbit," Wu Ming said bluntly or mercilessly to Black Rabbit. This made Black Rabbit's body tremble, and its smile also froze. "Listen carefully, Black Rabbit. Generally speaking, normal people can't join your community," Wu Ming said bluntly as if he was mocking Black Rabbit. Like dark clouds, Wu Ming's words covered Black Rabbit's blue sky, causing Black Rabbit's smile to disappear, and its eyes to become slightly moist. However, isn't such a community the most suitable for problem children? Wu Ming's words were like clouds parting, allowing Black Rabbit to see the blue sky again. In other words, Black Rabbit said with uncertainty, "I've decided to join your community. This time I'm not lying." Wu Ming smiled slightly. At this moment, Wu Ming's smile was like the sun after parting the clouds, illuminating Black Rabbit's heart. "Everyone, thank you very much." This time, Black Rabbit showed a smile of indecent ceremony, but it was an unusually pure and beautiful smile that came from the bottom of its heart. As if to highlight this moment, the sun became brighter, reflecting this beautiful scene. Chapter 573. The Black Rabbit was quite happy at this moment, but someone had to come out to tease the Black Rabbit at this time. Wait a moment, Black Rabbit. The one who wants to join is just a little brother. A frivolous smile appeared on 16 Knight's face. Indeed, I didn't say that I wanted to join. Jiufei Niao looked at Black Rabbit with a teasing gaze. However, the person he hated the most was still Haruhibu Yaichi. I don't have any objections, but since that's the case, I'll just follow the two of them. Hearing the words of these three problem children, Black Rabbit was stunned on the spot, and its bright smile froze. Everyone must be joking. At this moment, Black Rabbit did not know what expression he should use to face these problematic children. Yeah, I was just kidding. Very clearly Black Rabbit was played again. You problematic children. Ah! Although the place where Wu Ming and the others were summoned was the 210-5380 outer gate in name, there was only a large forest there. No Name was once the largest community in the East District, so it naturally had a large piece of land. Obviously, No Name wasn't here, because if they wanted to get to No Name, they would have to walk for a while. On the way to the outer gate of 210-5380, Black Rabbit, who was leading the way, dropped its shoulders weakly. Seriously, the problem child is definitely a terrifying existence comparable to the Demon King. The Black Rabbit complained weakly. The Black Rabbit was almost traumatized by the problem child it summoned. After seeing the 210-5380 outer gate in front of his eyes, as well as the current leader of No Name, Ren Russell, waiting in front of the gate, Black Rabbit's mood became a lot more cheerful. Young Master Ren, I've brought the newcomer back. Black Rabbit excitedly waved at Ren Russell, who was waiting in front of the city gate, and shouted loudly. After seeing Black Rabbit and hearing Black Rabbit's words, Ren's mood value obviously rose a lot. After that, Ren nodded and walked towards Black Rabbit. Black Rabbit, welcome back. After that, Ren asked the Black Rabbit as if he was confirming something. Are these two ladies the new members? Yes, these four are. Black Rabbit's voice stopped abruptly. Originally, Black Rabbit turned around and spread out his arms, preparing to introduce Wu Ming and the other three. As soon as Black Rabbit turned around, he realized that only Jiao Asuka and Haruai Biao were left behind. Wu Ming and 16 Knights had already disappeared. Ah! Black Rabbit was so scared that her face turned pale, and her hair showed signs of changing color. Where did Mr. Villo and Mr. 16 Knights disappear? Black Rabbit asked Kumu Asuka and Kasuga Hibakushi excitedly. 16th Eventide said that he wanted to see World's End. So he left on his own. Jiufei Niao kindly replied. What about Mr. Villo? The Black Rabbit asked again. As for Vero, because 16 Knights said, we still have a fight to fight, he was dragged away by 16 Knights, Haruai Hiroyuki said to Black Rabbit Mamoru in a serious tone. Just as Black Rabbit was about to ask again, Jiufei Niao spoke first, interrupting Black Rabbit. Right, Mr. Villo said something else. Then Haruai Hiroyuki mimicked Wu Ming's tone as if he was agreeing to Jiufei Niao's words. Tell Black Rabbit that 16th Eventide and I will be back soon. Don't worry, I'm here. You don't have to worry about 16th Eventide. Those were the Villo's last words. How can you not have to worry? In Black Rabbit's opinion, Wu Ming was also a problematic child, just slightly less dangerous than 16th Eventide. However, it still did not make her feel at ease. Then, Black Rabbit lowered her head with a gloomy face. Young Master Ren, please take care of Miss Asuka and Miss Hiroyuki. Black Rabbit will be back soon. After saying that, Black Rabbit's blue hair instantly turned pink. Then Black Rabbit took a step back and kicked off the ground. Black Rabbit could directly jump out. Then she quickly skipped away. Looks like Black Rabbit is angry. Haruai Hiroyuki looked at the pink hair floating behind Black Rabbit and nodded. But it has to be said, Black Rabbit really did look like a rabbit at this moment. The jumping ability of Hakata's rabbits is not bad. Jiufei Niao looked at Black Rabbit, who disappeared into the distance, and muttered. Then please follow me. I'll show you around here. Ren said somewhat cautiously. Haruai Hiroyuki and Jiufei Niao looked at Ren, who was the leader of the community in name, as if thinking about something. It was as if they were judging him as a leader, which made Rin feel even more nervous. However, Jiufei Niao and Haruai Hiroyuki were not judging Rin, but surprised that Rin was also a child. Although Black Rabbit said that only she and Rin Russell, who was the leader of the community, had the ability to participate in the gift competition, Black Rabbit did not specify Rin Russell's age. Rin Russell was more than 10 years old, but he was probably only 11 or 12 years old. Letting a child in his teens become the leader of the community, no name, was really at the end of the road. That. Miss Hiroyuki, is there any other problem? Rin mustered up his courage and asked. Only then did Jiufei Niao and Haruai Hiroyuki recover. After all, staring at someone was very rude. Sorry for being rude. Then Rin-kun, let's go. After Jiufei Niao said that, Haruai Hiroyuki nodded his head. Rin Russell, who was feeling extremely nervous, breathed a sigh of relief. Then, Rin led Jiufei Niao and Haruai Hiroyuki through the city gate. On the other side, reverse 16 knights in Wuming, one on the ground and one on the sky, were moving towards the east at an extremely fast speed. Behind reverse 16 knights was a cloud of dust that was stirred up by the running. The reason for that was because reverse 16 knights and Wuming had made a bet to see who could reach World's End first. Originally, Wuming was worried that 16 knights would not be able to reach World's End before nightfall. However, don't worry about me, little brother. I am very strong. Be careful not to fall, reverse 16 knights said as he cast a provocative look at Wuming. After hearing those words from reverse 16 knights, Wuming realized that the person before him was not an ordinary person. However, reverse 16 knights had not displayed any special abilities in front of Wuming. He had only displayed his intellect. Thus, Wuming had subconsciously assumed that reverse 16 knights was a wise man type of character. Reverse 16 knights' words did not sound like a bluff at all. Thus, Wuming began guessing reverse 16 knights' abilities. However, it was better to see it for himself. Since the other party was so confident, Wuming made up his mind. I will not go easy on you, delinquent 16th knights. As a result, Wuming used his mental power to fly up, and flew a short distance in an instant. Afterward, Wuming turned back with the idea of seeing reverse 16 knights' abilities. As a result, Wuming saw that reverse 16 knights had caught up with him like an ordinary person running. This caused Wuming to be greatly shocked. Then, the scene from before appeared. Wuming and reverse 16 knights, one in the sky and one on the ground, were moving toward the east at almost the same speed. Now, Wuming knew that reverse 16 knights had caught up with Wuming by running on the ground. There was no special ability. Could it be an ability like physical enhancement? Wuming guessed. However, Wuming felt that it was not that simple. Therefore, Wuming increased his flying speed by a lot. The air seemed to explode, producing an explosive sound. That was a sonic boom. By a conservative estimate, Wuming's current flying speed was at least 10 kilometers per second. Even so, reverse 16 knights was still able to easily catch up with Wuming. In fact, he had even surpassed Wuming to arrive before Wuming. What is it, little bro? Is that all you have? If you continue like this, you will lose, reverse 16 knights said without turning back. Additionally, he increased his flying speed. Wuming looked ahead. It was a miraculous natural scene. Countless trees had stopped growing before him. Instead, they were replaced by a large body of water. There was a cliff that was higher than Wuming and reverse 16 knights. A waterfall that was more spectacular than any other waterfall flowed down from the cliff. The waterfall flowed down from the cliff into a bottomless abyss. That was probably World's End. Indeed, if Wuming were to continue like this, he would lose this little bet. How can that be all you have? Wuming revealed a smile. Due to reverse 16 knights' provocation, in an instant, Wuming's flying speed increased by another notch. Wuming exerted a force through the air, and the air behind Wuming was repelled, creating a temporary vacuum. Instantly, Wuming and reverse 16 knights figures smashed into the body of water. Boom! Chapter 574. Dong. Due to their collision, a large splash of water was sent flying up into the sky, creating a scene akin to rain that did not cease for a long time. Combined with the sun hanging high up in the sky, it created a rare scene of a sun shower. Wu Ming and reverse 16 knights stood up, their bodies drenched with water. They then looked around. Although they were in a body of water, the water here was very shallow, less than half a meter deep. Thus, the two of them were standing in the half-meter deep water. Is this world's end? It's really spectacular. 16 knights said happily, not caring about her wet body. Wu Ming turned to look at reverse 16 knights, the smile on his face remaining pure. This time, however, the smile on reverse 16 knights' face was one of excitement and joy. It gave Wu Ming a feeling that he had come to the right world. Due to that, Wu Ming's vexed feelings of having to search for his main body in this incomparably large box court world eased. It is indeed spectacular. Although I have been to many worlds, this is my first time seeing something like this. Wu Ming stretched his hand out to feel the coolness brought about by the artificial rain. Wu Ming relaxed. The water here was exceptionally cool. Oh, little brother, you still have that kind of ability. 16 knights looked at Wu Ming with a chuckle. I am not a human after all. It is not surprising for me to have some special abilities. Wu Ming smiled. Oh, is that so? Looks like this bet ends in a tie between me and this non-human little brother. Next, reverse 16 knights revealed a particularly brutal smile. Now that you've seen World's End, let us begin our fight here. Next, reverse 16 knights charged at Wu Ming, creating a large splash of water and countless pebbles. Dong! It was an ordinary stomp. And yet, an explosive sound rang out. Then, the human known as the 16 knights in reverse met the ghost, known as Varosiris at the end of the world. At the same time, not far away from World's End, a pink-haired bunny girl, or rather Miss Black Bunny, who was having a headache because of Mr. Problem Child, was skipping her way towards World's End. Seriously, where did those two problem children go? Black Rabbit complained helplessly. Although the outer gate of 2105380 was very close to World's End, do not forget, the surface area of this world was very big. Although the outer gate of 2105380 was the closest to World's End, it was still not a place that ordinary people could reach. To put it simply, there were 2 points. Firstly, it was too far away. As mentioned before, the box court world was very big. The 7-digit outer sect was also quite a distance away from the end of the world. Secondly, danger. Due to the area between the 7-digit number of outer disciples and World's End, no one would care even if a robbery or murder were to occur there. After all, Hakata's laws were only effective for those in the upper 7 digits. Of course, if you robbed some big shot, they wouldn't mind teaching you a lesson and destroying your corpse. No, it would be more accurate to say that even if you were in the lower 7 digits, as long as no evidence of your crime could be found, nothing could be done about it. Not being found out was not the same as committing a crime. That was not a joke. Naturally, if you were to be caught committing a crime, your punishment would be much harsher compared to ordinary criminals. However, such a thing was unlikely to happen here. That was because there were many trial grounds for Asura gods and Buddhas here. That was another way of saying danger. The gift competition for the trial held by the Asura gods and Buddhas. That was a death game where a moment of carelessness could cost you your life. Black Rabbit was precisely that. If those Asura gods and Buddha's flowery words deceived us into participating in the gift competition, that would be terrible. Black Rabbit said worriedly as she moved forward. As everyone knew, many Asura gods and Buddhas, due to having lived for too long, liked to stir up trouble when they had nothing better to do. Thus, in the face of new faces who were unfamiliar with the rules, those Asura gods and Buddhas would tempt them. At present, Black Rabbit had almost reached the edge of World's End. I remember that Water God's trial grounds are in front of us. I hope they are not there, Black Rabbit said expectantly. Then, a giant wave and a series of roars that soared into the sky completely shattered Black Rabbit's hopes. No. It can't be. Black Rabbit was stunned for a moment. Then, she quickly reacted and dashed in the direction of the wave. In just a few seconds, Black Rabbit had passed through the forest. The waters of World's End appeared in front of Black Rabbit, including the figures of Wu Ming and reverse 16 knights who were soaked in the rainwater formed by the waves, and in between the two of them, the figure of a huge unconscious white water snake. Hey, 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 hey. Faced with such a scene, Black Rabbit was stunned at first. Then, she let out a startled cry. Yo, isn't this Black Rabbit? Why did you change color? Reverse 16 Nights asked without any self-awareness. Black Rabbit, you must have run around without permission. That's why your hair changed color, 16 Nights. Wuming waved his hand with an I am quite self-aware expression. This clearly has something to do with Mr. Villo. How can Mr. Villo say something like that? Black Rabbit was so infuriated by the two of them that she bellowed. Mama, it's all 16 Nights' fault. Wuming instantly pushed the blame onto Reverse 16 Nights. Hey, little brother, when I pulled you away, didn't you agree as well? We are rivals. We have to bear the responsibility together. Despite saying that, the smile on Reverse 16 Nights' face did not diminish. It did not match his words at all. By the way, what are you two doing here? Black Rabbit said, giving up on herself. Isn't it obvious? Come with me to World's End and have a look. While you're at it, let's have an exciting fight. 16 Nights Reversal smiled at Black Rabbit. Right. That's right. Black Rabbit suddenly reacted after hearing 16 Nights' words. This is World's End's water god, right? Did you two defeat the water god? Black Rabbit pointed at the unconscious white water snake and said in disbelief. Ah, water god? Is it this snake? 16 Nights laughed in disbelief. Unexpectedly, this big white snake was actually a water god. How interesting. After 16 Nights and I arrived at World's End, we enjoyed the scenery. Then 16 Nights began sparring with me. Wuming began explaining. Next, Reverse 16 Nights continued Wuming's words. Then, this fellow suddenly charged out while little brother and I were fighting. It said that we had disturbed its slumber, and that it had to participate in its gift competition to undergo its trial. Next, Reverse 16 Nights revealed a pure and wicked smile. Then, this guy was defeated by me and my brother. Black Rabbit was pleasantly surprised by Reverse 16 Nights' answer. Although there were only two of them, their combined strength had allowed them to defeat the water god. This power allowed Black Rabbit to see the future of their no-name. However, it was not that Black Rabbit did not believe it. It was also not that Black Rabbit discriminated against humans. Rather, could two mere humans really defeat the water god of World's End, who possessed a divine spark? Seeing the puzzled look on Black Rabbit's face, Wuming began explaining to Black Rabbit. Don't listen to 16 Nights' nonsense, Black Rabbit. Black Rabbit patted its chest and breathed a sigh of relief. As expected, they had used some method to defeat the water god. This was in line with the theory of humans using their wits to defeat their enemies. It was this snake that broke into the space between 16 Nights and me. Before it could finish its sentence, it was accidentally knocked out by our fists. Sigh. Black Rabbit was dumbfounded. Next, a cry of shock reverberated through the sky once more. Sigh, sigh, sigh. Chapter 575. The artificial rain in the World's End did not last for long. After the rain stopped, a beautiful rainbow appeared in the World's End. However, Wuming, Reverse 16 Nights and Black Rabbit did not see this beautiful scene. On the way back to the outer gate of World 210-5380, Black Rabbit held onto a seedling of an unknown plant with both hands and skipped ahead. It was clear that Black Rabbit was in a good mood. This time, Wuming and Reverse 16 Nights did not disappear. Instead, they obediently followed behind Black Rabbit. Why? After all, with Black Rabbit around, the fight between Wuming and Reverse 16 Nights ended without a conclusion. Not long after Wuming and Reverse 16 Nights began their fight, the giant snake that Black Rabbit addressed as the water god appeared to disturb them. Then Black Rabbit arrived as well. After being disturbed time and time again, Reverse 16 Nights lost the will to fight with Wuming. In the end, Reverse 16 Nights and Wuming agreed to continue if there was an opportunity. Wuming had no choice but to agree. Heaven had taken pity on him. He did not want to fight with Reverse 16 Nights anymore. As an origin dragon that lived in the Great Origin, Wuming's physical strength was not weak. He did not have to worry about fighting with a human. that said the human was not ordinary at all. Due to the fact that Wu Ming was only in his spiritual form, his physical strength was far from comparable to that of an origin dragon. Still, Wu Ming's physical strength was enough for most situations. However, in the face of Reverse 16 Knight's punch, Wu Ming utilized the Lune Rune and Yggdrasil's enhancement magic. Wu Ming, who had personally fought Reverse 16 Knights, could tell that Reverse 16 Knights was a monster in human skin. After admiring the scenery in the world's end, Reverse 16 Knights attacked Wu Ming. Instantly, Wu Ming exchanged a punch with Reverse 16 Knights. As a result, 16 Knights and Wu Ming both took a few steps back. It could be said that if Wu Ming hadn't reacted in time before the force of Wu Ming's Reverse 16 Knight's fist reached his body, Wu Ming might have been sent flying. Wu Ming immediately judged that the pure physical strength of his spiritual body was no match for the 16 Knights reversal. Not bad, little brother. Although I went easy on you, you're the first person to take my fist and not die. This was what 16th Knight had said back then with great excitement. Wu Ming felt a little helpless. She sounded as if 16th Knight often beat people to death. Wu Ming could tell from 16 Knight's aura and moves that 16 Knights had not killed anyone. However, this might have something to do with the fact that he was in an ordinary world. Even so, Wu Ming would not show mercy. On the contrary, Wu Ming had to use more strength. Otherwise, he would really be beaten to death by the opponent's strange strength. In the end, because of a series of accidents, the fight between the two was forced to end. However, Wu Ming always felt that this young man was not that simple. In addition to his extraordinary physical strength, he must have other abilities. Following behind Black Rabbit, Wu Ming, who was walking side by side with 16 Knights reversal, quietly glanced at 16 Knights reversal and kept thinking. Then 16 Knights reversal noticed Wu Ming's gaze and smiled at Wu Ming, full of fighting spirit. However, it's not like I don't have any hidden strength. Wu Ming returned the same smile as 16 Knights reversal. Fortunately, Black Rabbit's mind was immersed in the sapling in her hand, and did not notice the smile of Wu Ming and 16 Knights reversal. Otherwise, she would have lectured them again. Hee, with this water tree sapling, we don't have to go to other communities to buy water anymore. We finally have our own water source, Black Rabbit said happily. However, Wu Ming frowned when he heard this. No Name had fallen so low that they had to buy their daily water from other communities? Then Wu Ming pondered, what kind of existence was the Demon King that attacked No Name, to be able to turn the largest community in the East District into this in one night? After 16 Knights saw Wu Ming's pondering eyes, he instantly understood what Wu Ming was thinking. Then, as if he thought of something, 16 Knights reversal smiled. Little brother, are you interested in taking back the name and flag of No Name from the Demon King's hands? Wu Ming looked at 16 Knights reversal and smiled. Of course I'm interested. Taking back the flag and name from the Demon King's hands is a must. Wu Ming said solemnly. Since Wu Ming decided to join No Name, then he would work hard for No Name, and not temporarily join an organization to find his original body in this world. However, Wu Ming and 16 Knights reversal's words made Black Rabbit tremble and shiver. You two problem children. Don't cause any more trouble. Black Rabbit looked at Wu Ming and 16 Knights reversal helplessly, and tried to persuade them. Let's talk about this later when we have the chance. Wu Ming smiled at 16 Knights reversal. 16 Knights reversal spread out his hands and shrugged his shoulders. Wu Ming was right. After all, even if they talked about it now, they would not be able to find the Demon King that attacked No Name a few years ago. But then again, Mr. Villo and Mr. 16 Knights do not look like humans at all. Black Rabbit complained and looked at Wu Ming and 16 Knights reversal, as though they were monsters. Have you ever seen a human who could defeat a water god that had obtained a quintessence, and knock the water god unconscious with one punch? At any rate, Black Rabbit had never seen one in his 200+ years of life. In response to Black Rabbit's words, Wu Ming also looked at 16 Knights reversal as though he was looking at a monster. It was not surprising that Wu Ming could defeat the snake. After all, the spirit body of an origin dragon was quite powerful. However, for a pure human like 16 Knights reversal to be able to defeat a water god that had obtained a quintessence was quite shocking. Back in World's End, Black Rabbit had told Wu Ming and 16 Knights Reversal about the use of a quintessence. The quintessence of the quintessence world was not the mythical position that Wu Ming and 16 Knights Reversal believed that gods occupied. It was also not a natural god. Instead, it was a powerful gift that could allow an individual to evolve to the highest level of that species. Simply put, if a quintessence was given to an ordinary snake, the snake would become a gigantic snake god. If a quintessence was given to an ordinary human, the human would become an immortal. If a quintessence was given to a ghost, the ghost would become a ghost god. Additionally, the quintessence also had the ability to strengthen other gifts. In short, it was a very powerful ability. However, the quintessence was not something that could be given to just anyone. Only those Asura gods and Buddhas, or those with special abilities, could give others the quintessence. Additionally, it did not mean that those who were given a quintessence would become invincible. Take the knocked-out snake for example. As Wu Ming had not come into contact with the people of this world, he was unable to determine how strong the other party was. However, according to the definition of the upper, middle, and lower levels of the quintessence world, Wu Ming speculated that the snake god could not exceed the middle level, which was a 5-digit number. If such a being could be in existence of the upper level, then the martial strength of this world was too low. It was impossible no matter how he thought about it. Wu Ming pondered and shook his head. 16 Knights Reversal did not notice Wu Ming's absent-mindedness. He had the expression of a human as he looked at Black Rabbit with a smile. "Hey Black Rabbit, I'm different from this ghost. I'm a pure human." Mr. 16 Knights is really a human? Black Rabbit was a little surprised. After all, an existence with such power was actually a human. He should be surprised no matter what. Then Black Rabbit noticed something wrong. Wait a minute, Mr. Villo is actually a ghost. Black Rabbit looked at Wu Ming in shock. Wu Ming nodded. 16 Knights is right. You can also understand that I'm a ghost. As he spoke, Wu Ming turned his body into a spirit body. Then he reappeared and displayed the ghost's illusory form through spirit body. He's really a ghost. Black Rabbit said in a daze. As a rabbit who had lived for more than 200 years, Black Rabbit still had some knowledge about ghosts. There was a large community related to ghosts in the North District. Ghosts were the same as spirit bodies. They were illusory spirit bodies that were separated from the physical body. Although Wu Ming's spirit body was essentially the same as the heroic spirits in the Valhalla. Little brother, can you still disappear? That's interesting. You really are a ghost. 16 Knights Reversal looked at Wu Ming with interest. This once again triggered 16 Knights Reversal's problematic child nature. Then, the Black Rabbit angrily roared at Reverse 16 Knights. "Mr. Problematic Child, please stop causing trouble." Yes, I understand." 16 Knights Reversal smiled and nodded as if he had succeeded in teasing Black Rabbit. "Is this the outer gate of 210-5380? Wu Ming, who was not looking ahead, suddenly spoke. Then Black Rabbit and 16 Knights Reversal also looked ahead. It was indeed the place where Black Rabbit and Ren Russell met before. Phew, we're finally here. Black Rabbit breathed a sigh of relief. She was already troubled by the 2 problematic children behind her. Now she was finally free. However, Black Rabbit forgot that 2 problematic children had already entered the city, and they were led by the immature leader Ren. Chapter 576. We are going to have a gift match with Forsgaro. The kind where both sides are betting everything. And they are the ones who started it. What is going on? Black Rabbit brought Wu Ming and 16 Knights into the city gate and found Ren, Jiomotu, and Kasuga Hibakushi sitting in an outdoor cafe. Then, the 3 of them told him that they were going to have a gift match with Forsgaro. Black Rabbit looked like he was about to collapse when he heard the news. 16 Knights, on the other hand, had an interesting expression. Wu Ming, on the other hand, was deep in thought. Then as the leader, Ren told him what happened. Originally, Ren brought Jiomotu and Kasuga Hibakushi to the cafe and waited for Black Rabbit to look for Wu Ming and 16 Knights. Although life in No Name was tight, the cafe here was very friendly, and no matter how tight life in the community was, it could not be said. In the end, when the three of them sat down and ordered, a tall man named Guard Gasper, the leader of the Forsgaro community, suddenly sat down at Jiyomoto and the other two's seats. He wanted me, Kasuga Hibokushi, and Black Rabbit to join his community, and he even mocked the situation with no name. He was just like a clown. Jiyomoto held her forehead with one hand and had an "I'm about to be laughed at" look. Then, something must have happened, and that's why you guys decided to have a gift match with Forsgaro. Wuming asked with his arms crossed. Although Jiyomoto and Kasuga Hibokushi were problematic children, they were not people who did not know the gravity of the situation. Because he was very angry, he did not consider the consequences of finding trouble, and he did not consider the consequences at all. Jiyomoto and Kasuga Hibokushi calmly said something that made people speechless. Alright, problematic children are still problematic children. You two big idiots. Such an answer made Black Rabbit pull out a folding fan from out of nowhere and hit the two men's heads. Although there were indeed two problematic children, the more important reason was the orc named Guard Gasper. Thanks to Miss Flying Bird's grace, we've learned some things from Guard, Rin continued, but his expression did not look too good. Due to the other parties bragging, my community is the community that has continuously won the gift competition with the other communities by betting on their flags. Jiu Yuanfei's words made Jiu Yuanfei suspicious. After all, Wuming had also explained Black Rabbit's words in layman's terms. The world community's flag was as important as the national flag. Logically speaking, it was unlikely that there would be consecutive flag betting competitions. Then, Distant Bird used his grace to control the other party, forcing him to reveal the truth. My ability has the effect of completely dominating the opponent, Jiu Yufei said. It was through this effect that everyone learned about Guard's methods. By secretly capturing the old, weak, women and children of the other community, and then threatening the other community to enter the gift competition with the flag bet. Then by threatening the other community, he won and took the other community into the Forsgaro. Oh, so to say, Guard can be said to be the largest community in this 210-5380 outer sect area. After 16 Knights finished speaking, he looked at Wuming. Wuming naturally understood what 16 Knights meant, so he followed 16 Knights' explanation. Then, Guard must have used some method to control the other communities, so that such a large community can be maintained without chaos. Then, Wuming showed a disdainful expression. According to what Guard did, he probably captured some children who were the future of the other communities, and used them as hostages to control the other communities. It couldn't be said that Wuming knew a lot, because if Wuming was on Guard's side, he would do the same thing. However, Wuming would never become someone like Guard. Even if Wuming became the villain, Guard's methods would still make Wuming despise Wuming. Unfortunately, you only guessed half of it right. Distant Bird shook his head. Through Distant Bird's grace of domination, Guard said what he did, and it was indeed the same as what Wuming said, but those children have been killed by Guard and even their bodies. Haruai Toshi was halfway through his sentence, and he couldn't continue. Black Rabbit covered her mouth in disbelief, and 16 Knights frowned slightly. Naturally, Jitaka Renwa and Haruai Hiroyuki already knew about it. Black Rabbit, Wuming and 16 Knights reversal were no fools either. They naturally knew what would happen to a corpse in the hands of a beast man like Guard. Phew, Wuming closed his eyes and breathed a sigh of relief. It wasn't that Wuming didn't have any lives on his hands, nor was he a saint, nor was he unable to accept the deaths of those children. But Wuming was really angry with Guard's inhumane approach. The most important reason why Wuming liked humans was that humans had a kind nature. Sure enough, even if they transformed into human form, a beast was still a beast. To be honest, I have the urge to destroy Forsgaro. Although Wuming didn't burst out any amazing momentum, the murderous intent in his eyes was real. However, no one reacted to Wuming's murderous intent, because Guard's approach was too heartless. But fortunately, we have Mr. 16 Knights and Mr. Villo on our side. It should be more than enough to deal with Guard. Black Rabbit patted her chest and sighed in relief. Ha! What are you talking about? They are the ones who are looking for trouble. It has nothing to do with me. 16 Knights spread her hands, indicating that she wouldn't participate. And Black Rabbit was confused again. You're quite sensible. What about you, Villo? Jiuyuasuka didn't care about Black Rabbit's reaction and looked at Wuming. Wuming thought for a moment, then shook his head. If that's the case, you guys should participate in this gift competition. Wuming had his own reasons for doing so. Although Wuming knew that Guard must be very weak to him, being played around by the two girls, he decided not to make a move for the time being since it was his first time here. Instead, he decided to observe the situation for the time being. He also planned to look up some information to understand this world better. Moreover, this was also in line with Jiuyuasuka and Haruai Hiroyuki's wishes, so why not? Then it's settled. Haruai Hiroyuki made the final decision. Young Master Ren, why didn't you stop the two of them? Black Rabbit said helplessly. I'm sorry, Black Rabbit, because I couldn't stand it anymore, so. Ren gave Black Rabbit an apologetic smile. That was true. Anyone who encountered such a situation would be filled with righteous indignation. However, without Wuming and 16 Knights' participation, Black Rabbit was quite worried. You don't have to worry, Black Rabbit. Haruai Hiroyuki instantly subdued Guard when he went berserk. Is Hiroyuki that strong? Black Rabbit looked at Haruai Hiroyuki in surprise. Not only Black Rabbit, but Wuming and 16 Knights also looked at Haruai Hiroyuki. Seems like you have some skills, Haruai Hiroyuki. 16 Knights showed an interested smile. Wuming also didn't expect that Haruai Hiroyuki, who looked so weak, would be able to subdue the berserk beast man. Together with Miss Jiuyuasuka's ability to dominate, I believe that with Miss Jiuyuasuka and Haruai Hiroyuki, our no-name, will definitely win this gift competition. Ren said some encouraging words in one go. Oh! Black Rabbit shouted excitedly. Although it was awkward for her to be the only one shouting. This leader is not bad, but she still needs some polishing. Wuming thought. Well, since everyone is here, let's go to the no-names territory to take a look. Wuming and the other three nodded, and began to follow Ren and Black Rabbit to the no-name territory. Chapter 577. This is no-name's base. Jiuyuao said in surprise. Let alone a base, from Jiuyuao's point of view. This was clearly a ruin from who knows where. But she couldn't be blamed. Anyone who saw such a scene would be surprised. What appeared in front of Wuming's group was a huge ruined courtyard that looked like a castle and a vast wasteland. There was even a huge hole in the middle of the wasteland. 16 Knights walked to the side of a broken wall, and used his hand to lightly grab it. The wall immediately shattered like sand. Haruai Hikari walked to the empty space and grabbed a handful of soil. He found that it was all soil and sand that had lost its nutrients. Black Rabbit, I remember you said that the Demon King's attack happened a few years ago, right? 16 Knights was rarely serious. To be precise, it was 3 years ago. Black Rabbit lowered his head. Jiuyuao walked to Haruai Hikari's side, and looked at no-name's land that looked like it had been abandoned for hundreds or thousands of years. She frowned. But looking at the broken walls here, it's impossible to reach such a state in just 3 years. It wasn't that Jiuyuao was merciless, but this scene was too shocking. I'm sorry, this was indeed a fertile land 3 years ago. But because of the Demon King's attack 3 years ago, this land is still like this. Ren lowered his head secretly. It could be said that if Black Rabbit and Ren weren't members of No Name, they wouldn't believe that such a vast land could become like this in just 3 years. No, it should be said that it was in one night. But this land really did become like this on that night 3 years ago. And besides that, No Name's flag, name, and companions were all taken away. The Demon King left the land that has become like this to the remaining 120 members of No Name. But because these lands are barren, there are no other communities that want to take advantage of them. For everyone, it's already good to have a place to stay. Black Rabbit forced a smile, trying to make himself look less sad. Judo Asuka and Haruai Hiroyuki looked at each other, nodded, and walked towards the Black Rabbit. What do Miss Fei Niao and Miss Yao want to do? Black Rabbit looked at the two people who were walking towards him and asked. Punish the Black Rabbit. Huh? The Black Rabbit was stunned. Then the Black Rabbit's ears were grabbed by the two people's hands. and it was the kind that was very forceful. Wait a minute. Why did he have to punish the black rabbit? And why is the punishment of pulling my ears? The black rabbit's eyes were filled with tears as it covered its ears with a pitiful expression. There's no need to do that in front of your companions, Black Rabbit. Jiu Yuanfei pulled on Black Rabbit's ear and said with interest. We're all companions. There's no need to force yourself like this. Haruai Hikari was the same. However, compared to Q Hikari, Haruai Hikari was happier. I know. So please spare Black Rabbit's ears. Ren stood at the side and revealed a helpless expression as he looked at Jiu Yuanfei and Haruai Hikari pulling on Black Rabbit's ears. So this is the power of the Devil King. Leaving behind a symbol of his destruction to show his strength. What a proper villain. 16 knights looked at the ruins and said excitedly, without caring about Jiu Yuanfei and Haruai Hikari playing with Black Rabbit's ears. Then 16 knights realized that Wu Ming was nowhere to be seen. After looking around carefully, he realized that Wu Ming was doing something in the huge hole in the wasteland. Hey, brother, did you find something? 16 knights shouted at Wu Ming and walked towards Wu Ming. Thanks to this, Jiu Yuanfei and the rest were attracted over. Everyone looked at Wu Ming, who was standing at the edge of the hole. Did you really find something? Jiu Yuanfei and Haruai Hikari let go of Black Rabbit's ears and walked towards Wu Ming. Only then did Black Rabbit was released. Let's go take a look too, Black Rabbit. Ren said to Black Rabbit, who was rubbing her ears. Although he said it with an apologetic and helpless expression. Although Black Rabbit was angry that her ears were being played with by the two problem children, she was also curious about Wu Ming's current situation. So she nodded. The three problem children gathered around Wu Ming and looked at the hole that wasn't very big. They couldn't find anything out of the ordinary. This hole was created because the Devil King who attacked 3 years ago took away something underground. Black Rabbit began to explain. According to the older generation members of the community, this area has been a land of miraculous power since a long time ago. Many people speculated that there was some kind of powerful blessing buried underground. Every one of them wanted to dig this place up in search of the treasure. However, due to the interference of the various forces, none of them succeeded. It was only when our community heard about this that we moved our headquarters here, Ren explained. Then you don't plan to dig up the gift in the ground? Jiu Yuanfei asked. After all, this was a land that many communities were fighting over. Shouldn't they dig it up to see what was inside? In fact, our community's previous leader led the core members to dig up this land. However, for some reason it was left unsettled. Needless to say, the former members of No Name must have encountered some unexpected situation during the digging process. Moreover, it was an unprecedented situation, so they had no choice but to stop digging. Black Rabbit said with a regretful expression. Black Rabbit is also very curious about what is inside. Unfortunately, Black Rabbit isn't strong enough to see that scene. Then Black Rabbit's expression became serious. Since then, everyone in the community was told not to have any ideas about the treasure under this land. Everyone was obedient, so they didn't bother about what was under the land. And 3 years ago, when the Devil King attacked our community, he took away the mysterious gift under this land. After taking it away, this huge hole was left behind. Hearing Black Rabbit's explanation, 16 knights looked at Wu Ming with interest. But it seems like little brother has a lot to do with the mysterious gift under this land. 16 knights looked at Wu Ming, who was starting to get irritated, and said jokingly. Although Wu Ming didn't say anything, everyone present could see that Wu Ming was in a very bad mood at the moment. It could be said that Wu Ming was angry. Although Wu Ming didn't say anything, his heart was indeed about to explode. The mysterious gift that was once buried in this huge hole was the body of his dragon of origin. Chapter 578. At this moment, Wu Ming's heart was abnormally complicated, and he felt quite helpless. Originally, after understanding that this world covered an incomparably large area, Wu Ming would not be able to easily find his original body. Although he could find it as long as he got close, Wu Ming felt that he would have to put in some effort. As a result, when he got close to the base of No Name, Wu-ming sensed the presence of his original body. Once he entered, Wu-ming did not say anything and went straight to the place where he sensed his original body, and then he saw a huge pit. Wu-ming was stunned at first, then he began to feel irritated. Originally, he thought that he would have to put in some effort, but in the end he sensed the presence of his original body. This made Wu-ming happy for a moment, and then he realized that he had indeed found traces of his original body's presence, traces that had once existed in this place. And after Wu-ming finished listening to Black Rabbit's explanation, Wu-ming was a little angry. The former members of No Name excavating Wu-ming's body was not a big deal. After all, people were curious about the unknown, and the former members of No Name finally stopped excavating. They must have discovered that Wu-ming's original body was under the ground. Although he did not know why they stopped, Wu-ming was quite satisfied that they knew when to advance and when to retreat. And those demon kings who took Wu-ming's body were really looking for trouble. As the largest community in the East, No Name's strength 3 years ago was definitely not weak, but they still stopped excavating Wu-ming's original body. Wu-ming himself also knew that his original body was incomparably precious in a sense, and the former members of No Name being able to resist the temptation was naturally not bad. As for that demon king, since he was able to destroy No Name in one night, then his strength must be even stronger than No Name 3 years ago. And for a demon king who was stronger than No Name 3 years ago, and who wantonly used his authority as the host to attack other communities, there was nothing that he could not, or rather, did not dare to do. He just did not know if the opponent's courage was as strong as his strength. If Wu-ming found the opportunity, Wu-ming took a deep breath, trying to relax himself. Then, Wu-ming looked at everyone apologetically. Sorry everyone, I lost my composure. It's okay, Mr. Villo must have discovered something important to him. That's why he lost his composure. Black Rabbit smiled slightly, and everyone nodded. Mr. Villo is our companion now. If possible, I hope that Villo can pour out all the bitterness in his heart. Black Rabbit could be said to apply what she learned. I am also curious as to what little brother discovered to be so angry, 16 Knights said with a chuckle. Judo Asaka and Haruai Hiroyuki nodded as well. Silent state was quite worrying. Wu-ming looked at everyone and fell into deep thought. That if it's something that's inconvenient to say, you don't have to say it. Rin saw Wu-ming's hesitation and quickly tried to smooth things over. Wu-ming looked at Rin, smiled and shook his head. There's nothing inconvenient, don't worry Rin-kun. Wu-ming was actually thinking about what to say. Then, Wu-ming looked at everyone and spoke. 16 Knights and Black Rabbit already know. But I don't think the others know that I'm currently in a state similar to a ghost. Ghost? Jiuyu Wu-ming and Ren muttered. State. Black Rabbit and 16 Knights paid attention to the other part of Wu-ming's words. Let's put it this way, although I'm a ghost, I'm not dead, and this ghost state is the result of my own choice. Then Wu-ming told everyone the half-truth and half-lie that he had conceived. In other words, you met a very powerful enemy, and when both sides were injured, you moved your spirit out of your body, and by chance you found out that your real body was in this world, so you came to look for it. 16 Knights concluded Wu-ming's words. It feels a little magical, Wu-ming said calmly, but his eyes were filled with interest when he looked at Wu-ming, proving that Wu-ming's heart was not as calm as it seemed. Although it does feel magical, I didn't expect Villo to be a ghost. Let me touch it. Jiyuyu's face was red, and her hands and feet began to move. Her gaze towards Wu-ming became dangerous, from Wu-ming's perspective. Although it's theoretically possible to separate one's spirit and body, this is the first time I've seen it. Rin looked at Wu-ming with interest. Although Rin was the current leader of No Name, he was still a child in his teens. He was far from the wisdom of an adult, so it was natural for him to be interested in strange things. But then again, Mr. Villo can travel between worlds on his own. That's a very powerful ability. Anyway, Black Rabbit could not travel between worlds. And among the people she knew, only the Shura gods and Buddhas had such an ability. Although Wu-ming's ability to travel between worlds was much higher than what Black Rabbit had imagined. In short, little brother, your real body was taken away by the Demon King, right? Then, Are you interested in fighting the Demon King together? 16 knights suddenly said. Wait. Wait a minute. Against the Demon King or whatever, we can't do it alone. Ren was shocked. That's right. Currently, there are only 6 people in our community who can participate in the gift competition. Moreover, Black Rabbit is a noble from the Box Court, so she can't freely participate in the gift competition. Although young Master Ren can participate in the gift competition, his strength is also very weak. Therefore, our current combat power is only the 4 of you who have just joined the villa. Therefore, it's better to honestly develop the community bit by bit. Although the sentence, young Master Ren is very weak, made Ren's heart ache, it was the truth. Oh. So what? Does having fewer people mean that we're weak? 16 knights asked with a smile. This 16 knights' words made Black Rabbit and Ren look at each other. Indeed, the number of people doesn't mean the strength of the community. 3 years ago, there weren't many members of no name, but they still became a community whose flag flew everywhere in the East District. Then there's no problem. Moreover, if we want to develop the community, there's nothing we can do without a name. Since that's the case, then why don't we just aim to become the Demon King? 16 knights put his hands in his pockets, showing the look of a delinquent. Indeed, if we aim to defeat the Demon King that everyone is afraid of, it's hard not to be famous. Jyo Asuka agreed with 16 knights' words. Agreed. The quiet girl Haruai Hiroyuki silently raised her small hand, and agreed with the two. But Black Rabbit clearly wanted to say something, but 16 knights of reverse interrupted Black Rabbit. Then, little brother, you will definitely agree. After all, your real body was taken away by the Demon King. 16 knights looked at Wuming, who hadn't spoken yet. Of course, even if you don't defeat the Demon King, I will go back by myself. Wuming said with incomparable determination. One must know that his purpose of coming to this world was to find his real body. His real body was currently taken away by the Demon King who attacked No Name, so there was only one thing left to do. And that was to beat up the Demon King and then take back his real body. What do you think, young Master Tiny Tot? After Wu Ming agreed, 16 knights turned around and looked at Ren. Young Master Ren. Black Rabbit looked at Ren worriedly. After all, Ren had the title of the community leader. Although it existed in name, the community still needed Ren's approval to do anything. At this moment, the young man named Ren Russell lowered his head and hesitated. Ren didn't really understand the abilities of these new members. He only saw a trace of it from Jyo Asuka and Haruai Hiroyuki. Both of them had a very powerful gift to some extent. As for Wuming and 16 knights, although Ren didn't know much about them, when Black Rabbit gave Ren the gift card containing the water tree sapling, Ren already knew that 16 knights and Wuming were not weak existences. To be able to go to the end of the world alone and defeat the water god, it was enough to give him the courage to challenge the Demon King. I'm sorry, Black Rabbit. Ren apologized to Black Rabbit. Young Master Ren, you want to? Black Rabbit looked at Ren in surprise. In this way, how could everyone not know Ren's choice? That's right, I have decided to listen to Lord Reversal's suggestion and set the community's purpose to defeat the Demon King. Ren looked at everyone with an incomparably determined gaze. Well done, young Master Tiny Tot. 16 knights laughed wildly. Quite decisive. You have the makings of a good leader. Jyo Asuka gracefully flicked her hair. As expected, I can find friends here. Although Haruai Hiroyuki's words were somewhat inexplicable, it was still able to liven up the atmosphere. Young Master Ren, I support you. Black Rabbit clenched his fist. Even if it's for my main body, I have to work hard. Wuming said jokingly. After all, if it wasn't for his main body, would Wuming not work hard? That was obviously impossible. Then, Ren gave an inspiring speech. Then everyone, in order to take back our flag and name, work hard towards the goal of defeating the Demon King. Oh! Black Rabbit roared angrily. This made everyone feel awkward. Taking a closer look, it was 16 knights who covered Ren's mouth. Wuming and the other 3 also subconsciously kept quiet. Clearly, the Black Rabbit was being teased again. You problematic children, ah. The quick-witted Wu Ming had already spiritualized and watched the remaining 3 problematic children being reprimanded by Black Rabbit. What a nice big family. Chapter 579. Although Run had been sent back to the 16 nights of hitting the snake with a stick and the purpose of no name was to defeat the Demon King, he still had to pay attention to the current situation. That was the competition with Forsgaro. The competition with Forsgaro is tomorrow. Let's take this opportunity to do a gift appraisal. Therefore, Wu Ming and the other 3 followed Ren and Black Rabbit and went to a shop called Thousand Eyes. Along the way, Black Rabbit told everyone about Thousand Eyes. Thousand Eyes was a large business community headquartered in the upper 4 digits of the 3,345 outer gates. According to Black Rabbit, Thousand Eyes was an omniscient existence in the east, west, north, and south districts of Hakata. This suited the community's name, Thousand Eyes. Wu Ming was interested in such a community that had a lot of information. Along the way, he asked Black Rabbit a lot about Thousand Eyes. But basically, Black Rabbit only answered things like powerful, having many community members under their command. Wu Ming did not have any key, secret information that he wanted to hear. But thinking about it, Black Rabbit was just a member of no name. Even if he was a Hakata noble, it was unlikely that he would know about the other community's secrets. Then, just as Black Rabbit finished explaining about Thousand Eyes, Wu Ming sensed something flying towards them. If Silent Wonder's judgment was correct, the flying object's target was their group. Roajax blazing 7 circles. Wu Ming rushed in front of everyone and put one of his hands in front of him. Instantly, a shield that looked like 7 purple petals appeared. Bang! The white figure collided with the relic that Wu Ming had created at the last minute using the Create Green item. The sound of the collision was so loud that it was painful to listen to. At the same time, Soundless Shield instantly released a large amount of air waves to the surroundings, as if it had been affected by the collision. The shockwave blew everyone's hair into a mess. Even a lady like Jiu Yuanfei now couldn't stand properly. Everyone was shocked. It was obvious that they did not understand what was going on. Could it be a divine spark armament? Black Rabbit looked at the shield Wu Ming used in disbelief. 16 Knights, on the other hand, stared at Wu Ming with an excited smile. As expected, you're very strong, little brother. 16 Knights didn't notice the white figure's attack, but Wu Ming did. This meant that whether it was the white figure or Wu Ming, they were both stronger than him. After all, my mental strength isn't fake. It's not strange for me to sense that someone is coming before you. As he spoke, the 7 rings of blazing talent in front of Wu Ming's palm shattered, revealing the white figure that fell to the ground after colliding with Wu Ming's noble artifact. It was a kimono with a black base and blue sides that was the size of a primary school student. However, the most attractive part was her snow-white hair that was tied into a small braid. She was a proper kimono loli. Her inhuman-like pointy ears and golden pupils told everyone that the kimono loli in front of them was not human. After seeing the kimono loli's true face, Black Rabbit was obviously stunned. Master White Yiksha, why are you at the lower level? It seemed like she was someone that he knew. This made Wu Ming feel awkward. Ouch. You really don't know how to be gentle with a girl. You actually used a shield to block a beautiful girl who threw herself at you. The kimono loli named White Yiksha rubbed her head that was hurting from the collision and got up from the ground. After all, I'm facing an unknown person who suddenly attacked me. What I did was right. Wu Ming shrugged. Oh, you're quite good at talking back. However, seeing that you were able to discover me, I won't argue with you, Mr. Ghost. Likewise, kimono loli. As he spoke, Wu Ming and White Yiksha looked at each other. Both of them stared into each other's eyes so closely that it seemed like sparks were flying. 2 of you, please stop for a moment. Black Rabbit's forehead was sweating as he tried to persuade them. Humph. For Black Rabbit's sake, I won't argue with you. White Yiksha took out a folding fan and opened it with a swing, covering the lower half of his face. Thank you for your magnanimity, White Yiksha. Wu Ming responded with a smile. Immediately after, White Yiksha led everyone to a room in Thousand Eyes. Let me introduce myself first. I'm a cadre of Thousand Eyes, White Yiksha. At the same time, I'm also the floor master of the East District. Then White Yiksha used the folding fan to cover his face and looked at Wuming. Vilo Saransword, new member of No Name. A lost ghost who is searching for his original body, Wuming said simply. Next to Wuming were 16 Knights Reversal, Jiu Yuanfei, and Haruhebu Yayoi. 16 Knights Reversal, as you can see, the new member of No Name is an ordinary human. 16 Knights Reversal said heroically. Jiu Yuanfei, new member of No Name. At the moment he's also an ordinary human, Jiu Yuanfei said elegantly. Haruhebu Yayoi, new member of No Name. An ordinary human. This is Sanmao Cat. Haruhebu Yayoi said in a casual manner, and introduced his cat at the same time. However, to Black Rabbit, these 4 people were disaster-level problem children. Oh, are you the people that Black Rabbit summoned from another world? Let's not talk about these 3 for now. Your introduction to yourself is a little short. With that said, White Yiksha looked at Wuming. Then, that Lord White Yiksha, please don't be so calculative. Black Rabbit thought that White Yiksha was still concerned about what happened just now, and hurriedly tried to smooth things over. However, White Yiksha was not such a calculative person. She only cared about Wuming's identity. Although it's also because I didn't deliberately hide my figure, it can be said that you're very powerful to be able to discover my figure. I'm slightly interested in you. Immediately after, White Yiksha covered the lower half of her face with the paper fan, and continued speaking. You should know that at the moment, I'm the strongest existence below 4 digits. You should know that the water god that Mr. Vilo and Mr. 16 Knights defeated was given a godhead by Lord White Yiksha. Black Rabbit explained kindly. That made 16 Knights, Jiu Asuka, and Haruhebu Yayoi raise their eyebrows. Black Rabbit was instantly frightened as she was afraid that these 3 problem children would do something again. On the other hand, Wuming had the thought that this guy is really strong. One should know that the fake Roajax that Wuming created earlier using the Create Green item was filled with a large amount of mana by Wuming. It could be said that it was comparable to a real relic. After all, when facing an unknown world and unknown dangers, one had to face it with 200% of their attitude. However, even so, the fake Roajax that Wuming created had 7 layers of shield shattered after White Yiksha collided with it. At that time, the airwave that was produced was because all 7 floors had been broken through. If not for Wuming injecting a large amount of mana at the last minute, perhaps the fake Roajax would have shattered right away. Not only that, the reason why Wuming was hostile to White Yiksha was entirely because of the sense of danger that White Yiksha gave Wuming. To put it simply, White Yiksha's ability was definitely one of the top in the box. I'm indeed not weak, but I'm just a spirit that's looking for my original body, Wuming said calmly. Is that so? White Yiksha took a deep look at Wuming. But the power that can split a star in your body makes me nervous. Hey. Black Rabbit and Kazuhito looked at Wuming in shock. Even the 3 problem children looked at Wuming curiously. Wuming, on the other hand, felt rather helpless. The power that White Yiksha mentioned that could split a star in half was undoubtedly the divine sword of salvation. Although Wuming's spiritual body could use it, it was like a follower's relic. It was a god relic formed from pure mana. Theoretically, White Yiksha should not be too far away. However, there was another possibility, which was that White Yiksha had a close relationship with a star like the sun. Otherwise, White Yiksha would not be so cautious of Wuming. Be that as it may, I just want to find my original body as soon as possible, Wuming said calmly. He had no intention of explaining his power to everyone. Firstly, Wuming could not explain it clearly in a short period of time. Secondly, the power to split a star was considered a trump card, so there was no need to explain it too clearly. That was why everyone did not ask Wuming specifically. Well then, I hope you find your original body soon. White Yiksha smiled lightly. Subsequently, White Yiksha looked at everyone. So, what are you doing here at this branch of Thousand Yes? Chapter 580. Actually, we're here to appraise the gift. Can you help us appraise it, Lord White Yiksha? Black Rabbit looked at White Yiksha with greedy eyes. Clearly, Black Rabbit and White Yiksha knew each other, and they looked like acquaintances. Of course, appraising a gift would require some handling fees. With the current financial situation of No Name, they would save as much as they could. Appraising the gift? White Yiksha glanced at Wu Ming, then looked around at Reverse 16 Knights, Jiufei Niao, and Haruhito Hikari. Alright, although this isn't what I'm good at, since Black Rabbit has spoken, let me help you a little. With that said, White Yiksha clapped his hands. Instantly, four rays of light condensed above Wu Ming and the others. Then the light solidified and turned into 4 cards of different colors. They fell and were subconsciously grabbed by the 4. That's gift card. Black Rabbit exclaimed. Gift card. Jiufei Niao muttered as she looked at the red piece of paper in her hand, and the words written on it. That's a high-level gift called Laplace paper. Not only can it store the gift, but it can also control the concealment and appearance of the gift card according to one's needs. Simply put, it's a bound personal warehouse, White Yiksha explained. Not only that, but the gift card can also appraise your gift. What's written on the paper is your gift. With that, White Yiksha moved and came to Wu Ming's side. He was quite interested in Wu Ming's gift. Then he would be disappointed by the result. Blank. White Yiksha looked at the gift card in Wu Ming's hand with no words on it with a surprised expression. Then, as if he wanted to confirm whether the gift card was broken, White Yiksha moved to Reverse 16 Knight's side and looked at his gift card. Don't know? White Yiksha became more and more suspicious of whether these gift cards were broken. However, after seeing Prestige written on Jiufei Niao's card and Life Catalog written on Haruhito Hikari's card, this suspicion disappeared. But at the same time, he was curious about Wu Ming and the 16 Knights reversal. There had never been a case where 16 Knights couldn't be detected and Wu Ming was blank. If 16 Knights' grace couldn't be detected, it could be said that it was affected by its own grace, but Wu Ming's grace was completely blank. If the gift card was not damaged, it meant that the person being tested did not receive a gift. However, Wu Ming wasn't surprised. Although his ability could be considered a gift, Wu Ming didn't come from this world. Therefore, the definition of this world didn't apply to Wu Ming. This is really interesting. I'm looking forward to your future. Opening his fan to cover his chin, White Yiksha looked at Wu Ming and 16 Knights with interest. No Name was only here to test the grace. Now that the results were out, there was no reason for them to stay any longer. Therefore, Wu Ming and the rest bid farewell to Bai Yiksha. On the way back, Wu Ming began to remind them. The competition with Forsgaro is tomorrow. Those who are going to participate in the competition should prepare a little. Hearing Wu Ming's words, Run, who was going to participate in the grace competition, nodded solemnly. Regardless of seniority, he was the weakest among all of them. Naturally, he needed to prepare. For Jiufei Niao and Haruhito Hikari, even without Wu Ming's reminder, the 2 problem children wouldn't relax. Or rather, how could they relax when it was their first time doing something in another world? It was like a child who couldn't sleep because of the excitement of going to the zoo the next day. However, the 2 of them weren't unable to sleep. Next, everyone returned to the No Name base. Then, Run and Black Rabbit took Wu Ming's group of 4 to visit the various rooms and places in the No Name base. Although because of the Demon King, No Name, not only was the land barren, but the houses also became dangerous. However, in the past 3 years, the remaining child members of No Name, Black Rabbit, and Rin didn't stay idle. They sneakily repaired the No Name house. At the very least, it was no longer a problem for people to live in. It was no longer a dangerous house. After the 4 of them chose their rooms, Wu Ming heard that there was a huge library under No Name. Then, after getting Ren's permission, Wu Ming said goodbye to everyone and went straight to the library alone. After coming to an unfamiliar place, the most important thing was to obtain unfamiliar knowledge, because that meant that you had obtained information, and Wu Ming didn't have to worry about the language barrier. There was a magical place in the box court world. No matter what kind of world the person came from, no matter what kind of language the person spoke, what kind of words, the box court world would unify them, allowing the person's words to be automatically converted into the other person's language. For example, the person opposite you was clearly speaking English, but in your eyes he was speaking German, whether it was the mouth or the voice. It was quite magical. But even if the box court didn't have such an ability, it didn't matter to Wu-Ming. As the origin of almost all worlds, every time Wu-Ming came to a new world, he would automatically master the world's common language. Otherwise, Wu-Ming wouldn't be able to communicate normally with other people in other worlds. In addition, Wu-Ming also had the God-Slayer's 1,000 languages ability, which allowed him to completely learn a language in a very short time. In short, Wu-Ming would never encounter an awkward situation where he couldn't read. Just like that, Wu-Ming found a small, sturdy table, cleaned the dust on it, and sat down to read. It had to be said that although no name had declined, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Although the library wasn't very big, the collection of books was still quite rich. Currently, Kalas wasn't by Wu-Ming's side, and Wu-Ming didn't have the ability to quickly read books, so Wu-Ming could only read books that were more important to Wu-Ming. For example, the history of the box court, the specific classification of the box court, and so on. After an unknown amount of time, Wu-Ming finished reading an unknown number of books in his hands. After closing it, he used his telekinesis to control the book and put it back on the bookshelf. Wu-Ming couldn't help but sigh again. No Name was once the largest community in the East District. The quality of the books in the library was quite high. Wu-Ming even thought that some of the books here might not be available in other communities. Moreover, the No Name library was well maintained. Although it had experienced the Demon King's attack, it was now only slightly dusty. It didn't look like it had been abandoned for 3 years. Someone should be cleaning it regularly. And Wu-Ming could also see from some details that someone had been to this underground library recently. Maybe it's run. Wu-Ming speculated. After all, even if he was the leader of a community in name only, Run was still the leader of a community. It was necessary to supplement his knowledge appropriately. But judging from the dust in this underground library, the other party didn't come to the library often. Generally speaking, I've understood enough. Let's go out for a walk. As he said that, Wu-Ming's eyes flashed. It's about time someone came. Then, Wu-Ming walked out of the underground library and came to the surface. Chapter 581. After coming to the surface, Wu-Ming found that the sky was completely dark. It's already this late. Wu-Ming carefully looked at the moon in the sky that was almost the same as the moon in the ordinary world. Calculating the time by the moon's position, it was already midnight. After reading some books about this world, Wu-Ming thought that in this world where gods and Buddhas walked everywhere, the moon should have been taken by the moon god. In the end, it was still hanging in the sky, but maybe the moon god was happy to do so. No longer paying attention to the moon, Wu-Ming began to walk towards the outskirts of No Name's base. I hope I didn't miss a good show. No Name's base wasn't small, it could accommodate more than 100 people. Plus, it was bedtime, so Wu-Ming didn't meet the other members of No Name. Jiu Yuasuka, Haruai Yaori and even Black Rabbit were probably already asleep. After all, staying up late wasn't good for the girl's skin, and there was a competition tomorrow. But Ren and 16 Knights probably couldn't go back to sleep. 16 Knights' proposal to fight the Infernal King was obviously not a random proposal, so it wasn't impossible for 16 Knights and Ren to have a candlelight talk tonight. But with 16 Knights' brain, there shouldn't be a need for a candlelight talk, which meant that Ren should be asleep. And in Wu-Ming's opinion, 16 Knights definitely wouldn't sleep. That guy is a smart guy. It's impossible that he didn't think that Forsgaro would send people to play dirty. The good show Wu-Ming mentioned before was this. After all, this trick had worked against the opponent time and time again. How could the opponent give up using this trick just because he was tricked during the day? As Wu-Ming spoke, he expanded the range of his spiritual perception. In an instant, No Name's entire base was enveloped by Wu-Ming's spiritual power. Over there. Wu-Ming revealed an expression that said he expected it, and then walked in the direction of his perception. In Wu-Ming's perception, Wu-Ming saw 16 knights standing in front of a small forest. However, not only did Wu-ming sense 16 knights, but he also sensed a group of thieves in the woods. However, Wu-ming couldn't help but complain about the other party's sneaking technique. Perhaps in front of ordinary people, the other party's technique was quite perfect, but in Wu-ming's eyes, the other party was like a big light bulb walking in the dark. It was hard not to notice. To put it simply, 16 knights had already discovered them. Boom! It sounded like something had exploded. Wu-ming didn't need to look to know that it was 16th knights. After walking over unhurriedly, this was the scene that greeted him. Reverse 16 knights smiled as he weighed the small stones in his hand. He looked at the 5 or 6 assassin-like people lying on the ground in front of him. There was also a crater in front of them that looked like it had been hit by a cannonball. There was no doubt that these people were wearing the blessing of night stealth, but because their levels were too low, they couldn't hide from 16 knights. As for the crater in front of them, it was obvious from the rock in 16th knight's hand that it was caused by the rock 16th knight threw. What an inhuman human! Wu-ming complained in his heart. Oh, isn't it, little brother? You finally came out of the library. Although he had already noticed Wu-ming's spirit, 16 knights still had a "oh, what a coincidence" look on his face. I'm still a little worried, so I came out to take a look. Wu-ming looked at the brown-clothed people who were obviously frightened. But it seems that I have nothing to do. After all, I can't let you be in the limelight for everything. 16 knights shrugged and deliberately showed a helpless expression. However, 16 knights' helplessness made Wu-ming smile helplessly. He could only say that he was indeed a problematic child. What happened? Run, who was originally awakened after falling asleep, ran over. As you can see, Guard's dirty trick has been taken care of by 16 knights. Wu-ming shrugged. Then Wu-ming heard the brown-clothed people whispering. Such strength. Could it be that the rumor of defeating the water god is true? If that's the case, we can be saved. Wu-ming instantly understood that these guys were the pawns of Guard who were using the hostages of their community as hostages to control them. Let me tell you in advance, the hostages in Guard's hands have been killed by Guard. What? After these people heard it, they were all in disbelief. Our companions here have the ability to make Guard reveal the truth. Guard has personally told us to kill the hostages directly. Wu-ming added. These people were silent. But thinking about it carefully, after those hostages were taken away, they indeed never saw those hostages again. Wait. Mr. Villo, why did you tell them directly? Ren looked at Wu-ming with some concern. Ren's meaning was naturally to consider the other party's feelings. After all, the hostages who had been threatened were killed from the beginning, and it was inevitable that some people would not be able to accept it. I think the little brother did a good job. I don't expect to consider their feelings. These people have helped Guard do a lot of such things. 16 knights said sarcastically. I'm very sorry. I'm obviously here to harm you, but at this moment, I made a willful request. But please listen to me. Then the leader spoke out his request. Guard is relying on the protection of the Demon King to do whatever they want in the outer sect of 210-5380. If possible, we hope that you can beat Guard to a pulp in the gift competition tomorrow. Please. A brown-clothed person who looked like the leader walked forward and bowed deeply to Wu-ming, and the other two. Please. The other brown-clothed people also bowed to Wu-ming, and the other two. 16 Knight's face showed an expression of, I was waiting for you to say that. Then he grabbed Ren's shoulder. No problem. Guard, the Demon King's minion, will be defeated by the community led by Ren Russell. Thank you very much. The brown-clothed people responded in unison. And Ren Russell, the 11-year-old child, was stunned on the spot. Hey. A moment later, after Wu-ming gave them some instructions, the brown-clothed people all retreated. Wu-ming and the other two also moved from the courtyard outside to the inside of the house. In the boardroom-like room, 16 Knights was enjoying the night view while Wu-ming was sitting on the sofa reading a book, constantly flipping through it. Wu-ming used his spirit power to take it out when he passed by the library. Ren, on the other hand, stood beside 16 Knights with a pained expression. Mr. 16 Knights, why did you say that? Ren was naturally referring to the community led by Ren Russell, that 16 knights mentioned. Although I accepted your suggestion to take down the Demon King as the goal, but to directly use my name to publicize it, it's a little. To put it bluntly, Ren was embarrassed. Just forgive 16 knights this time, Ren. After all, the only person our community can bring out is the leader. Black Rabbit's identity was special, so naturally, it could not be used for publicity. Wu Ming and the other three were newcomers who had just joined the community, and they did not have the chance to show their strength. Even the news of them defeating the water god was spread in an unreliable way. So only Ren Russell, the leader, was left to publicize. Well, there's nothing bad about it. After all, you're the leader of the community, Ren. 16 knights smiled gently. That's right. Just accept it. Wu Ming flipped through the pages while persuading. Since things had come to this, Ren could only nod. Speaking of which, little brother, what did you say to those people? I'm very curious. 16 knights asked. It's nothing big. I just told them that no name can restore their community's freedom. But in return, I hope that those who did such things can turn themselves in early to atone for the children killed by guard. After all, it was not something shameful, so Wu Ming said it casually. After all, even if they were forced, it could not hide the fact that they were guards' accomplices. Although their crimes did not warrant death, they still had to accept the necessary punishment. You're really kind, little brother, 16 knights reversal said in a mocking and praising tone. Turning themselves in early and pleading guilty after being caught were two different concepts. The former would definitely be dealt with lightly. The ordinary laws of other worlds stipulated this, so the laws of the United States of America were not much different. It could be said that Wu Ming's actions were actually helping those people. It's just a suggestion. It's up to them whether they listen or not. Wu Ming said casually, his eyes still on the book in his hand. Of course, it was not that Wu Ming looked down on those people, but there were definitely not many who were willing to turn themselves in early. After all, this was also a gamble. What if no name lost after turning themselves in? Opportunities would not wait. If they could not seize the opportunity, it was not Wu Ming's problem. At this time, the door of the conference room was pushed open. Is everyone here? The owner of the voice asked with some surprise. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.